This is Newsroom. Yes, myself and Elvis President. We're flying solo today, Elvis. But it's not so bad. We've still got a full pack show for you. Of course, today we've got a specific question we want you to answer. It's with regards to skin bleaching on the African continent. A recent study by the University of Cape Town found that 1 in 3 women on the continent use skin lightening or skin bleaching. What do you think about that? We would love to see your views. On screen is the question. How do you view this development? A little bit later in the show, we'll have an interview around that to get a little bit deeper into the subject, so don't go away. Lots of news on this morning, though. Elvis is going to give us a quick update. I'll be manning the sports desk.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. Communications Minister Faith Mutombi has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. And the UN Secretary-General has described the situation in Burundi as chilly and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. Those are all your headlines, but first, let's take a quick look at what's happening on the sports front. Over to you.
Thanks, Elvis. Yes, it's been a tough night for the Amakosi supporters around South Africa, I can tell you that. Mamelodi Sundowns are the champions of the Telkom knockout. This after thrashing Kaizer Chiefs by 3-1 at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban last night. The president of the Brazilian Football Association, Marco Polo Del Nero, has denied charges of corruption and money laundering, saying the accusations against him are simply unfair. And shark attack survivor Mick Fanning is back in the water and has advanced into the quarterfinals at the last stop on the World Championship Tour, the Billabong Pipe Masters. Yeah, I'll give you another update from the world of sport shortly after 10:15, around 10:20 this morning. But let's go back to Elvis for the news.
Thank you, Yeben. Now the Rand, this is our top story. The Rand is trading just above 15 Rand to the dollar. That's after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised the interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. In America, the first increase since 2006, there are concerns that the move could cause a ripple effect among emerging markets, including here in South Africa.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point, the first hike in 9 years, and a big signal that the central bank believes the U.S. economy is strong enough to merit the change in policy. Chair Janet Yellen explained the timing.
It takes time for monetary policy actions to affect future economic outcomes. Were the FOMC to delay the start of policy normalization for too long, we would likely end up having to tighten policy relatively abruptly at some point to keep the economy from overheating and inflation from significantly overshooting our objective. Such an abrupt tightening could increase the risk of pushing the economy into recession.
Yellen said policymakers were confident that inflation would reach their 2% target in the medium term, but she said the Fed did not have to reach that goal to raise rates again. The stock markets moved higher in reaction to the move. Fed policymakers next meet January 26th.
Now we'll see if we can get some reaction from a market analyst as soon as we got that Skype line up and running. So stay tuned right here on Newsroom to get that reaction. Now, Communications Minister Faith Mutombi has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. The Broadcasting Digital Migration Project kicked off in October. 23,000 set-top boxes will be distributed free, absolutely mahala, to the community of Kemus in the Keiharip municipality. Now, this follows the gazetting of the digital terrestrial television policy in March. Mutombi has urged community members to register at their local post offices for the television devices.
We are launching the first set-top box manufactured here in the country. So we'll be handing over the set-top boxes, and then that's going to change the life of Tani Bendels in the sense that she's going to see clear television access, because you know here the SKA, people have been struggling to have access to television. So this is going to change the life of Danny.
What the minister just did was the first step in a long journey. The Chinese say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. For us, the first set-top box here is a journey of 5 million households to receive these boxes from government, the subsidized boxes. We know that it is going to be a long journey. It is a journey that is going to be going through mountains and difficulties, but we are prepared for it. So we start today here in Kimus, and we're very excited. Later on today, we'll be distributing about 150 set-top boxes here in Kimus, and in the entire Eastern Cape, Northern Cape province, we'll be distributing about 116,000 set-top boxes. So we'll be here in this province for quite a while.
For now, Eben Janssen is standing by with more in-depth look at stories that have been making headlines.
Yes, thank you very much, Jarvis. Very good morning to you once again. Now, it's that time of the year. Children go missing. Most of them are found, I have to say, but South Africa is in danger of human trafficking, even though it is less of a hotspot than some other countries on the continent, as thousands now descend to beaches, malls, parks and other busy areas over the festive season. Children, they tend to go missing, and parents, well, they are urged to keep even more of a watchful eye. According to figures released by the South African Police Service Missing Persons Bureau for 2013, a child goes missing every 5 hours here in South Africa. For whatever reason or circumstance, children can be snatched. Now, to talk to us about this, we are joined from Cape Town by Rose McKinnon, who is the National Coordinator at Missing Children South Africa. Very good morning to you, Rose. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Rose, just give us a quick overview of missing children in South Africa. Are we at a scenario where we need to be very concerned, especially at this time of the year?
Well, this time of the year we should be more aware for the busyness, like you said, in the shopping malls and on the beaches. And we need to just be more vigilant as we go along. But it's not anything to be more concerned about than normally throughout the year.
What should parents be aware of at this time of year? You say that you need to be a little bit more vigilant. The simple numbers or traffic of people in and around hotspots are more. What should parents be doing or thinking about?
Well, we should mainly have our children educated on the fact that if we are in a mall or at a beach, we have a safe point. So if your child gets missing or you go on a different route, there is a safe place to meet at if you both get lost. And I think you need to educate your children not to speak to anyone and not to trust anyone but the security guards at the different shopping points or beaches.
And in general, does the trafficking of children, does it spike at this time of the year, or do we have a general trend throughout the year?
It doesn't change really. It's just we feel that there might be more cases because people are becoming more aware of missing children in South Africa, and they confide in us to help them find their children. But we normally have 240 cases a year, which is 20 cases per month. So it's a steady flow.
It says here that a child goes missing every 5 hours in South Africa. Tell us around that number, how many children do get found, and what are your concerns specifically?
We have a 66% success rate, or a 66% overall success rate, a 73% success rate for children. And the only concerns I have is that people aren't aware that Missing Children South Africa can help you and your family find the missing child and help you assist with the police stations as well.
Tell us about the work that you do at Missing Children South Africa. Do you only deal with do you deal with trafficking, for instance?
We do have some cases, however, I don't have that information at hand due to the recent results that have come out. But we do have some cases of human trafficking, yes.
And how bad is the problem in South Africa, but also wider Southern Africa?
Like I said, I don't have those stats at hand. Unfortunately, it has not been released just yet. But there are a lot of cases that we're also not aware of, and I can only release those once the stats are out at the end of the year.
In South Africa, where are the sort of areas that people should be more vigilant?
Well, our three main provinces are Gauteng, Western Province, and Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. And those are our three main provinces that have the highest spike in either abduction, runaways, or general unknown cases.
Rose, thank you very much for joining us today. That's Rose McKinnon from Missing Children South Africa. It's very simple. Keep an eye on your children over the festive season. The risk increases, and there's only a 70% chance that your child will make it back to your home if you lose your child over this time of the year. But we continue with issues around young people, children in particular. How do we develop them over the months and years to come? Elvis has more on that.
That's right, Eben, and we're talking about early childhood development. Now, a non-profit organization called The Unlimited Child is attempting to change the future for all South Africans through its focus on early childhood education, or ECD. Now, they have an initiative to improve the opportunities for young children in underprivileged creches. They hope that they will do this by providing a structured program and educational toys, as well as training and ongoing support for the creche's caregivers. The Unlimited Child is launching 3 new toy kits for the creches. These new kits are designed to specifically cater for the educational development needs of babies, toddlers, and grade Rs. Now, to tell us more about this, we are joined in our Durban studios by Ian Corbishley, the head of the Unlimited Child. A very good morning to you, Ian, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Now, Ian, first and foremost, tell us about these new toy kits. What are they all about, and how can they help these children?
Yes, Elvis, the 3 new toy kits augment what we already have in 800 creches across South Africa. We've been focusing on children aged 3 to 6, but now we've realized that we have to focus on children from birth. And so we have 3 new programs that we're rolling out into creches. We started last week, in fact. One new program focuses on babies from birth to 18 months. The second one focuses on toddlers, 18 months to 3 years. We already have a pre-grade R program that's been running for a long time now. And our 4th program is the grade R program, which we are introducing into grade Rs within creches from January next year.
Now, paint me a picture of this toy kits that you're talking about.
Yes, Elvis, we have a practitioner's guide which takes a creche practitioner right through a calendar year, an academic year, from January to December. And it's a learning program that has everything in it. The guide is supplemented by a kit of specially designed toys, which most of which were designed by a woman called Frida Wilkins, an early childhood specialist. She also wrote the practitioner's guides. And so every item in the toy kit has a use and is aligned to the learning program or the practitioner's guide.
Have you supplied these kits to this age group before, or are these the first of a series of toy kits that you supply?
The Unlimited Child is the vision of a man called Ian Buchan, who is the chairman of the Unlimited group of companies. 2 of us who are educationists were able to put his dreams into practice, and we've been working in disadvantaged creches since August 2008. And so we've had various programs since August 2008. But the curricula have changed, and we've redesigned the programs to fit into a new curricula, new policies, And so we've been going now for almost 8 years, but we've updated our programs.
Now, so how many kits will you distribute at this time around, and are these kits for free?
Yes, we already have our equipment in almost 800 creches in 6 provinces. But we intend to reach more than 1 million children by 2020. So we've spent a lot of money. The Unlimited group of companies has invested over 30 million rand already, and we also have other donors who've assisted us. But we intend to reach about 20,000 creches by the year 2020.
And are they free, these kits, Ian?
Yes, we do provide them free of charge.
Now, you're also talking about training for the caregivers. Why should they get training, and how many caregivers will be attending this training sessions?
Yes, thanks, Elvis. Many well-meaning NGOs and NPOs leave equipment in creches and daycare centres believing that the caregivers, the practitioners, know what to do with the equipment. But that fails each and every time. You cannot leave equipment and programs in creches without the proper training. The caregivers and practitioners need to be trained to use the equipment. So we spend a considerable time actually training the caregivers to use our programs, to use the aligned equipment. And it doesn't stop with the initial training. We carry on monitoring and lending support through what we call cluster meetings, where learning is ongoing.
Is this only for the underprivileged creches, or is it for all the creches in the country?
Our focus is very specific. We focus on disadvantaged creches in South Africa at the moment, but the dream is to take it into Africa one day.
And where can people get hold of you if they are underprivileged creche and they want to get or be part and parcel of the program?
We do have a very good Facebook page called The Unlimited Child. We have a website as well, which is undergoing, it's being reconstructed right now. But you can get hold of us through the Unlimited group in Hillcrest in Durban.
Wonderful. Ian, good luck with the program. It sounds absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, Elvis.
That was Ian Korbishley, the head of the Unlimited Child. Over to you, Eben.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elvis. Now, let's go around the world quickly and take a look at the front pages. What's in the news right now? We'll start in Europe, where the Times reports that Britain is preparing to send up to 1,000 troops and special forces to Libya as the Islamic State makes land grabs to extend its caliphate into the oil-rich North African state. Then, across the pond, the New York International Times says the authorities in Belgium said that one of the attackers may have escaped from the police in Brussels because of an arcane law barring raids between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. Then, finally, in Israel, the Jerusalem Post reports that Hamas and the Islamic State in the Sinai have been cooperating in the smuggling of weapons, demonstrating that while Hamas is a nationalist Islamist movement, it also has common roots from which to build a functioning relationship with other jihadists. Let's take a quick look now at what's happening in our courts today. KwaZulu-Natal, 3 alleged hitmen accused of murdering Indaka municipal manager Sinatra Khumalo in June of this year. Well, they're expected to appear in the Izakeni Magistrates Court there. Of course, Mamelodi Sundowns are the Telkom Cup champions after beating Kaizer Chiefs 3-1 at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban last night. It was heartbreak for the Amakosi fans who went there with high hopes, as they always do, but it was not to be this time. Sorry. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Mbali talks about, I love at Kaizer Chiefs, but really from the moment we got to the Telkom TKO final and was slated to face Sundowns, I knew we were going to lose. Yes, you should tell Pizza Misimani that. Sam Lamar says, I hate to say I told you so, but then again I told you so. Sundowns victory. Laugh out loud, says Sam. Kaizer Chiefs. There are 2 South African coaches who can handle Kaizer Chiefs. Steve is not proving to be one of them. Yes, there were even calls for Paul Dolezal to come back on social media last night. Sundowns there. Good morning, Kaizer Chiefs fans. How was your night? It was a rough night for them, no doubt. A rough night. Some are calling for Stuart Baxter to come back today. Poor Steve Compella. Who would want to have that job? Poison chalice, some will call it. Don't forget our question of the day today. Our question of the day today, well, it deals with skin lightening, the dangers of skin lightening. In South Africa, 1 in 3 women use skin lightening products. Why do you think that is the case? That's our question of the day. Also, in other African countries, 3 out of 4 women in Nigeria, for instance, use skin lightening products. They're very dangerous and they can cause skin cancer. Now, after the break, we're going to have an interview that deals with that UCT study that says 35% of South African women use skin lightening products. That is a staggering number. But first, a short break.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, we have been banned.
It didn't happen to me on that day because I was already in jail when it happened.
I was scared that when I get back to Joburg, I was going to be arrested. Well, I wasn't. Who are you asking? You're looking at me?
Yes, Abed, I'm talking to you.
So the old fuddy-duddies like Dennis and me will remain there.
I just want to say, Joe, that the thing about... damn, go on, and it's coming back to me.
So much more than just the Legal and Rights show. Join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom. Time for us now to, to deal with a story around the question of the day. Women across the African continent still subject themselves to harsh and dangerous skin lightening products, all in the name of beauty. Skin bleaching is a practice of using chemicals to lighten skin tone by reducing the concentration of melanin in the skin. Now, a study conducted by the University of Cape Town revealed that 1 in 3 South African women use skin lightening products. In 1992, South Africa banned skin lightening creams that contain hydroquinone, a dangerous substance that causes skin thinning. But products containing this substance can be easily bought, especially at the taxi ranks here in South Africa. Now, to talk to us more about what we call in South Africa the yellow bone craze and the dangers of skin lightening, we are joined from our Cape Town studio by Lester Davids, who's an associate professor of cell biology at UCT. A very good morning to you, Lester. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Eben, and thank you for having me on your show.
This is such an interesting topic, and it's such an emotive topic, but tell us, why did you guys decide to do this study, and maybe you can give us kind of overview what the study says.
Eben, thank you. The study itself was a survey study that just asked women literally on the street what kind of creams, etc., they would use and why would they want to use it. And the survey revealed quite interesting results in that we found that most women would prefer to lighten their skin for some reason, and there are a number of reasons. There's social reasons, none of them really biologically sound, and that was what got me into the field and really exploring it a bit more from the biological aspect as to what the consequences of using these lighteners is.
And what are those consequences? I'm sure that it must be quite dangerous.
They are. In a nutshell, as you've already mentioned, the hydroquinone, which is the large one. There are actually 4 major compounds that we find in most of the skin lightening creams. We tend to call it the big 4. Hydroquinone is one of them. Hydroquinone is actually a tyrosinase, which is the enzyme that produces your skin color. It inhibits it. The other big compound that is found in lots of skin lightening creams is mercury. And in our latest study that we published a couple of months ago, we found that hydroquinone as well as mercury are found in local creams. Of the 29 that we looked at, 22 of them had levels of mercury and hydroquinones that were way more than the regulated recommended amounts.
What are the long-term effects then of these chemicals particularly? Are there cancer risks, for instance?
So mercury, for example, is a highly stable compound. It also absorbs into the skin very easily, and as it gets absorbed, it can therefore enter the blood. And there have been numerous studies from overseas that show that high levels of mercury are not only poisonous to organs like your kidneys, but they can also cause alterations in your blood, leading to possible blood cancer effects and further down the line, organ failure. Hydroquinone, the same. Hydroquinone is a benzene derivative and is also pretty toxic in high concentrations. And so with ongoing use, it could lead to lots of organ failure and damage to the skin and the rest of your body.
The regulation of the industry in South Africa. Tell us how it's regulated and what needs to happen to improve the situation.
Yes, thank you for that question. Most of the regulatory practices around the world are really run from the US via the FDA, from Europe via the European Union and the European Commission. In South Africa, we have the two major regulatory bodies are, number one, the Medicines Control Council, the MCC, which regulates drugs, as it were. The other regulatory council that we have is the Cosmetics and the Cosmetics Fragrance Association, which of Southern Africa is the regulatory body for cosmetics, toiletries, and fragrances. However, lots of these creams are really illicitly brought into the country, and the regulations are particularly lax, particularly when we find them on all of our station markets, at our spaza shops, etc., all over South Africa. So we certainly need to pull up our socks on the regulation of these skin lighteners and the skin bleachers, because the chronic use and ongoing use of it is detrimental to our younger women and our older women in South Africa.
Do we have an idea where these products are coming from?
Even the large market for most of these products really comes out of the multi-million-dollar markets like India, Japan, China, and they flood our countries over the borders. They generally come into all of the African countries, including Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, and South Africa. How they get in, we don't often know. What we do know is that they get in large amounts and then get redistributed onto our station markets, onto our taxi rank markets, etc., in lots of smaller quantities that are sold for next to nothing, and that's the problem, that people use them on their skin over time. They don't have any regulatory protocols that go with them, and so they just slap it on, and that often leads to irreversible skin damage.
That is very, very concerning. Thank you for joining us. Lester Davids is an associate professor of cell biology at the University of Cape Town. They've done a study that found that 1 in 3 women in South Africa are using skin lighteners. Now, I can tell you Nigeria tops the list with 75% of women in that country bleaching their skin, followed by the Senegalese. Between 52 and 67% of women have said that they use skin lighteners. South Africa comes in at 35%. A lot of these skin bleaches, as you heard, come from, are sold on the black market, really, and are not safe for human consumption. The longer-term effects, as Lester Davids told us, are things like organ failure and the like because of the chemicals. Our question of the day deals directly with this. How do you view skin lightening, the practice of skin lightening, not just in South Africa, but across the African continent? It is very, very rife. Now, while we're talking about Africa, next Elvis takes us into the world of technology on the continent.
That's correct, Eben, because technology trends in Africa have changed the way we connect and do business right here. Because connectivity defines modern prosperity, Every year, the technology industry predicts the breakthrough innovations in the coming year, as well as the dominant trends that will reshape business and your behavior as a consumer. Now, some trends that we are familiar with are e-commerce, new innovations in mobile banking and payments, but there's more. To identify how technology trends change society and how global technology changed the African societies, we are joined in studio by the co-founder and editor of the technology blog iAfrican.com, Tefo Mohapi. Tefo, very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, tell us about your blog, iAfrican. What do you write about and what do you share with your readers?
Yeah, we cover technology as it pertains to Africa, obviously, but beyond social development, and also to show other people that there are Africans, Nigerians, Kenyans, South Africans, Zimbabweans, etc., that are developing technology startups to make money for themselves.
Mm-hmm. What is the global impact of technology, especially on the African continent? Is there such a thing?
You can say that it's been mostly mobile, and I'd say that it's more on a consumption basis and a little bit on the creation side, seeing an upspringing of startups coming up, but I'd say mostly it's on the consumption side.
Now, you're talking about mobile because some are suggesting that mobile technology can actually help alleviate poverty. Do you concur with that statement?
I strongly do not concur, and I'll tell you the reason why. The reason being that, as I said earlier, it's mostly on the consumption side, so you're not seeing much in terms of creation, in terms of manufacturing. For instance, there is no mobile telephone manufactured in Africa. There's very few apps that are used widely across the continent. Take WhatsApp, for instance, that are manufactured or made by Africans in Africa. So I think there's still a bit more that needs to be done.
Now, with all these new technology trends coming out, how do we as Africa fare relative to the world?
I think it's coming quite well. I mean, looking over the past 5 or so years, it's been, in Nigeria, for instance, over the past year or two, there's been startups that are coming out in the travel industry, hotel booking industry, that have raised quite millions of dollars. In the e-commerce space across the continent, not just Nigeria, in Kenya as well, in South Africa, there have been quite a lot of e-commerce players in that space. So we're faring quite well. I wouldn't say we're at a stage where we got a startup or a company that can conquer the world. In that space, in terms of technology, it would be your systems integrators, so your Dimension Datas, which was acquired by NTT.com a few years back, your BCX's Business Connection, which was acquired by Telkom recently. So it's still, I'd say, old legacy type technology businesses that have grown quite big and made quite few billions. But in terms of new startups that are coming, like you see in Silicon Valley, we still have a way to go.
Technology trends is all good and well, but how safe are we? Let's talk about data privacy, for instance, when people migrate to different systems.
Data privacy is a big issue, especially with the proliferation of technology startups, because some don't have data privacy in the back of their mind. So I'd say consumers need to be very careful. I mean, look at the service that you're taking up. Simple thing like online banking, always look at the link if it's got a SSL certificate. So there's a little thing that will say HTTPS, check if it's valid. But data privacy is a big issue, especially with lots of new services coming up. So you need to make sure it's on you as a user to just double check before you use any new service.
Now, you've talked about mobile being maybe the key here to African technology, but what else is there that we could look out forward to in the next year, 2016?
Mobile is good in terms of consumption, as I said, but I think there are other areas that, what excites me most is the electronic space, so things like Arduino and Raspberry Pi, so creation kits, electronic kits where people can create their own electronics or various projects on that. So I think those can help.
Is that an app, by the way?
It's not an app. Arduino is a kit that you can buy with various electronics that you can build all sorts of things. You can build an alarm for yourself. You can build, I think your imagination can go wild. So I think that excites me because that enables people to create. And that's what I'd like to see more of.
Are we, South Africa, in the forefront of technology on the continent or not?
But that's a controversial question. I would say it depends which South Africa you talk of. South Africa has a history, so certain parts of South Africa, yes, it's at the forefront, but the solutions being developed by that part of South Africa are more for the urban people. Where areas where you look at Kenya or you look at Nigeria or even the Maghreb countries like Tunisia and Morocco, they're developing solutions for people like lower middle class or poor people that help people. So with South Africa, I think the solutions are more urban and upmarket, and I think that will still come.
Tefo, we're still going to have a lot to talk about in terms of technology, so thank you so much for joining us here in studio.
Thank you, Evers.
That was the co-founder and editor of the technology blog, iAfrican.com. You need to check it out. It's very interesting pieces that come out of that particular blog. Tefo Mohapi joining us here in studio. Now, let's take a look at some of your comments. And apparently, Eben is smiling because last night, Kaizer Chiefs got a hiding. So here are some of the comments, and let's start off with this first one here, the following last night's Sundowns victory. Here's some of the fans, what they had to say about Steve Komphela. This one, Steve Komphela, why are you complaining about the referees? You got 2 penalties. That one. And this one from Mercedes says, it's a sad, sad day for Steve Komphela. And I don't think us Kaizer Chiefs fans are ever going to get this one down today. Steve Komphela as a coach is not a player. He's not the one who missed the 2 penalties, says Kiarona there on the Twitter page. This one from Munangiwe says, this is the worst season ever. Steve Komphela should adjust his team. This inconsistency performance, we don't want this, he says Matombel on the Twitter page. Now, you can do the same and let us know what's on your mind on the Twitter page as well as on the Facebook page. But, of course, there's a very important question that we are asking you here today. So, in terms of skin bleaching, what's your take on that? Let us know what's on your mind on the hashtag, not on the hashtag, on the Twitter feed at SABC Newsroom. Over to you, Eben. Well, in fact, let me just continue here. Let's take a look at what is happening on our Facebook page today. A hung jury has prompted a Baltimore trial judge in the United States to declare mistrial in the first case against an officer charged in the death of Freddie Gray. Plus, the United Nations Secretary General has described the situation in Burundi as chilling and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. It's a worrying situation there in Burundi. We need to watch that very carefully over the next couple of days. And finally, Human Settlements Minister Lindiwe Sisulu here at home will today hand over houses, and to more than 2,000 title deeds will be handed over to the N2 Gateway homeowners in Cape Town in the Western Cape. Finally, that has come to fruition. Now, you can find all of this on our Facebook page and, of course, our SABC News website. You can go there and find all the details. Stay tuned right here. We'll take a break right now, and we'll be back right after that.
We make sure to bring you exciting entertainment news on Trends. Ayanda, a vibrant South African movie told with love, passion and exceptional acting.
For Ayanda, at least, it says that we are heading in the right direction. South African films are growing and they are heading in the right direction to become international movies.
The Urban Art Festival artists brought back colour to old buildings of Johannesburg with their spray cans.
Festival to promote graffiti in Johannesburg and also to promote the Johannesburg inner city. But it brings a number of international artists out, and then they paint with our local artists, and they paint throughout the inner city.
We even give you tips on making healthy and fruity cocktails.
Low carbs, fun cocktails for the summer.
Join Refulo Muelwa every Friday for that 1-hour weekly dose of art and entertainment news at 9 p.m. on Trends.
You can roll up if you want.
Welcome back. Now, drug-free sport. That is something that we talk about this morning. Now, December sees most matriculants, they are stuck at home, and especially sports stars, young sports stars that come out. They are stuck at home, they haven't got anything to do. They're wondering, how will they get their time by? And this is what happens when you're sitting at home and they pass the time while awaiting their exam results. Now, this factor that you or your child you have got no control over it. And that can lead to depression in these young adults and can drive any parent mad with worry and trepidation. I know that feeling. Societal pressures and peer pressure, boredom, festivities. There's also these parties and drinking and the anxiety that comes with awaiting the outcome of their future. All of these things impact on these young future leaders, as they are left with nothing to do and can easily be swayed by their peers to take the easy way out. Now, to tell us more on how children can stay the course of a conviction as a future sports star, we are joined in studio by 4 times South African natural heavyweight bodybuilding champion, coach and author Martin de Wie. Plus, he's got his son with him as well. A very good morning to you, Martin, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis. Thank you so much for having me here.
Now, during this time, it's a very difficult time for the year for all kids around the world. In fact, here in South Africa, it's even worse because they got 6 weeks off and they got nothing to do. Your advice to parents that has got future sports stars in their home, what would you say to them now?
Oh, it's simple, Elvis. They've got to look at a number of factors. First of all, many of these kids being under pressure to perform in sport will end up taking steroids. The coaches want them to perform, and they're not interested in their well-being. Simple advice that I'd like to give them is that they've got to get into a program, a proper program. Now, all well and good. I see thousands of youngsters training in the different gyms, and they're just training incorrectly. It's actually scary because many of these kids are going to end up hurting themselves. I was shocked the other day. I was in one of the gyms, and these youngsters, a group of about 15 or 16 of them, were discussing what sort of steroids they should be using. I was horrified, and I couldn't believe it. But this is the trend all over.
Why is that?
You have to understand, Elvis, that steroids gets results in, really, really quick. During this period, everybody's taking holidays, going to the beach, and they want to look good. So if you're taking a course of steroids for 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to get you into shape in a very, very quick period of time. My program is completely different. My program will keep the muscle forever. You see, anyone that takes steroids, that's rented muscle.
For a short while.
It doesn't last. Yes. As soon as you get sick or as soon as you run out of money, that muscle is all repossessed.
Yes. So your program is for future sports stars.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that program and how it works.
Future Sports Stars is actually the first program developed in South Africa or Africa or around the world that will educate parents, coaches, and the player, whether they be male or female, on how to train, how to eat, what to eat, everything that they need to know on drugs and the dangers of drugs. This program will put many, many myths to bed as far as how to, can muscle fat be turned into muscle? Can't. Many questions like, if I train 6 hours a day, will I grow? Things like that. And everybody thinks it's about rushing and just getting results. I've been asked this question 1 million times. Can you get to the top without drugs? And my answer is, you can. But it's going to take you between 6 to up to 10 years to do it. Yes, to do it.
Keegan?
Yes.
You've been training how long now? Let me hear.
I have been training for 6 years now through my dad's help. And, well, by how you can see, it's been going really well. I try and eat 6 times a day. I try to stay away from red meats, sugar, chocolates. That's not my thing.
And how's it been going for you?
Really well, actually.
Yes?
I mean, the ladies are loving it, and I'm loving it myself.
So what does your training program entail?
My training program is just eating well, going to the gym every day, just to do at least 45 minutes in the gym. Start off with cardio, probably day 1, biceps, chest, day 2, triceps, back, and so on.
17 years old? You
17 years old.
How much do you weigh?
I weigh 89 kilos at the moment right now.
Are you going to become a bodybuilder like your dad, or what are you going to do?
I see myself soon being bigger than him. So
yes?
I'll be the man.
Martin, where can people get hold of the product, and what can they do now once they have the product in hand?
Well, I'm actually promoting this as Christmas gifts. It's the only Christmas gift that you can honestly use throughout the year. Parents can go to my website, which is martin@drugfreetraining.co.za, or just check out my YouTube videos, or just go to www.drugfreetraining.co.za, and they can actually get lots of info on that.
Now, you're also planning to, this period that we're talking about, especially December and January next year, to do something different in order to get these kids and the parents together and show them how to do it physically.
We've been planning this for some time right now. Many holidays, parents always have nightmares wondering what their kids are going to get up to. So what we've decided to do is to run a number of workshops, starting off in Johannesburg and eventually moving them throughout South Africa, and keeping parents at ease, because we're going to be handling their kids, showing them how to eat, what to eat, workshops on nutrition, how to train, etc., etc. This will definitely produce hundreds, if not thousands, of future sports stars.
Now, the dangers of drugs you've mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of steroids that athletes use, but what are some of those dangers, the after effects of that? What do you get?
Side effects such as kidney damage, liver, the aggression factor. These youngsters could be really, really passive, and they turn out to become wild lions. I know of a story where a young boy, 15 years old, was trying to get into one of the A-sides, used steroids, picked up 10 kilograms of muscle, but then the aggression factor came in. I tell you what happened is he started beating up his friends around him and kept on apologizing. And then he beat up his younger brother and sister and eventually beat up his mother. And that's what steroids does. My program, every youngster going to my program will be passive. He will grow naturally. Nothing like that is going to happen. And of course, he or she will not be cheating.
Your message finally to youngsters out there, and of course I want a message from you as well to the youngsters out there as well, Keegan.
Very, very simple. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to understand, to build a body, to build a business, marriage, anything, takes time. You have to take it one day at a time. If you want to get to the top, you've got to stay drug-free. You've got to stay honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Very, very important. My message to youngsters out there, you've got to stay in school. Education and sport go hand in hand. So you've got to keep the two together.
Keegan?
My message for everyone out there is just keep committed, keep God in your life, and just keep going. Don't go backwards, move forward.
There you go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here in studio. Keegan, all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
If you want muscle like that, drug-free training is the way to go. Martin de Vie, 4 times SA natural heavyweight bodybuilding champion. He's a coach and an author. You can get his product. It's selling right now. Go to his website. That website again?
www.drugfreetraining.co.za.
Go there today. Well, it's over now to you, Evan.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Ever wondered who made these bracelets and what purpose they serve other than funky beaded jewelry? It's estimated every day at least 600 children worldwide are newly infected with HIV, with most of them living in sub-Saharan Africa. Most of these children acquire HIV from their mothers during pregnancy, but a non-profit organization called Mothers to Mothers, together with Relate bracelets, is making a difference. 1 in 4 HIV-positive women who delivered their babies in countries supported by M2M received education and support in the last year. Joining us now from our studio in Cape Town is Mothers to Mothers representative David Torres, and then the CEO of Relate Bracelets, Neil Robinson. Very good morning to you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Evan.
Let's start with you, David. Mothers to Mothers enrolled nearly 490,000 women in the program in 6 countries in sub-Saharan Africa in the last year, including more than 100,000 HIV-positive women. Tell us about what the centre and program, what it does for these women.
Sure. Thank you, Evan, and thank you for inviting me to come on the show with Relate. Mothers to Mothers employs HIV-positive mothers as peer educators. And we deploy these mentor mothers, as we call them, to work in clinics and in the community to help newly diagnosed pregnant women and new mothers diagnosed with HIV navigate the healthcare system, get on treatment, and ensure that they take care of themselves so they can stay alive and raise their children, and take medication to prevent transmission to their children. Mothers to Mothers was founded 15 years ago here in Cape Town. We're a South African organization working across 7 countries. And as you said, we have scaled, we're a social enterprise, and we're helping a huge number of women across 7 countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
If I can go across and talk about, Neil, talk about your role in the whole process. Just give us your overview of the last year.
Thanks, Eben. So we spoke a couple of months ago, I know, and since we last spoke, we've really dialed up the needle. We've probably done about 8.5 million rand this year to different causes around South Africa and the world. So we're sitting on about 33 million now, money raised to date in just 5.5 years. We were actually selling our 2 millionth bracelet this month. And, you know, Mothers to Mothers is a great partner of ours. We got together a couple of years ago. And, you know, we've always looked for, you know, both local initiatives as well as global ones affecting, you know, the continent as well as the planet, not only South Africa. And I think David and his team has been wonderful in respect of how we leverage the AIDS issue, as we call it. And I think it's a very positive, proactive and quite humbling program that they run. And we partner with programs like that. The guys have got big ambitions, big goals, as we are. So it's a great privilege to work with them.
We've just had World AIDS Day. If I can go over to David, tell us your experience here in sub-Saharan Africa. Do you think that we are getting to a tipping point where we're turning the tide?
Yes, actually, that's a very good point. I do believe we are. South Africa is a perfect example. In the last 5 years, South Africa has made huge progress in reducing the number of children who are born with HIV. We feel that we've been part of that. And we, in addition to partnerships like the partnership we have with Relate, we work very, very closely with the Department of Health. So Mothers to Mothers over the past 3 years has been working with the Department of Health across a number of provinces to take our model and integrate it into the healthcare system delivered by the government as well. So in addition to the mentor mothers that Mothers to Mothers employs and the women that we're seeing in the programs that we run, we've now set up hundreds of sites in Limpopo and Gauteng that are run by the Department of Health with our help, who are taking our model and running with it. So we look at the sustainability in our model as partnership with the Department of Health. We feel as an organization that we're combating the severe shortage of healthcare workers in sub-Saharan Africa. There aren't enough doctors, there aren't enough nurses. But if you can imagine you're a young woman coming to a clinic, you think you're pregnant, you've booked an antenatal appointment, and you're very excited, you're a bit terrified, and when you see a nurse, she tells you that not only are you pregnant, but you're also HIV positive. You lose the will to live in an environment where stigma is still as terrifying and as terrible as it is in South Africa, and where there isn't enough time, given the shortage of doctors and nurses, to really spend time with clients to explain that HIV is not the end of life. It's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that your child will be infected. A mentor mother being there with that nurse, who the nurse can refer the client to, can spend the time with that young woman to explain to her that by getting on treatment, she can live and she can make sure that her baby is born free of HIV.
That's brilliant. Now Neil, tell us, talk to us about the support that you're getting from South Africans for the product, the bracelets, and are South Africans aware enough of what needs to happen, and are we willing to chip in?
I think even if South Africans know where the money's going to, I think they're very eager and willing to chip in. I think the bracelet is a very simple mechanism. Of course, it has to have an R on it to distinguish between other bracelets. If South Africans are given the choice, they want to do something good. Give them easy options. You know, if you make it available at great retail outlets, it costs 39 Rand, most of them. It's not a lot of money for a tax-paying South African to get involved in. You know, my ambition at Relate is to get every tax-paying South African to buy one bracelet a year, one R bracelet a year. And in doing that, we can raise R250 million for good causes, Mothers to Mothers being one of them. You know, we're supporting 82 causes around the world now, most being in South Africa. South Africans will do good if they know that it's a reputable organisation where the funds are going to where they should be going, and make it easy. I think that is the bottom line, make it easy for people. There's so many issues in South Africa. Cut through the clutter and make it a simple, easily accessible thing to get involved in.
David, finally, you've got 30 seconds to tell us what is next. What do you see in the next 12 months, 36 months for Mothers to Mothers?
Thank you, Evan. What we would like to see is a mentor mother working in every health facility in the country, and mentor mothers working in community healthcare settings, so that every woman who comes to the facility, whether she's HIV positive or HIV negative, has someone there to help her navigate the healthcare system. And by doing so, we believe that we'll overcome the shortage of doctors and nurses in South Africa and other countries in sub-Saharan Africa. That's our vision. Thank you.
Fantastic vision. Thank you for the Herculean task that you guys are doing. That is the CEO of Relate Bracelets, Neil Robinson. That's the man on your left on the screen. And, of course, today he was with David Torres of Mothers to Mothers, who represents Mothers to Mothers, not just in South Africa, but the entire sub-Saharan part of Africa. Now, Time for us to get a weather update. It'll be the short one because we're back at the top of the hour with more news. See you then.
SABC, a national public broadcaster with the power of 19 radio stations and 5 television channels, is taking the next step into digital migration with top-spec production facilities. The era of digital migration has arrived, and SABC is ready to service the nation with cutting-edge technology and continue to tell South African stories through award-winning local and international content. On the 17th of December 2015, catch Minister of Communications, Honorable Faith Mutami, during the launch of the DTT DTH STB rollout in Northern Cape Gamos and Gamas. SABC, we are ready.
AKA went overseas to win 2 awards for himself for Best South African Male Artist and a second one for his hit track All Eyes on Me. The Lamb film is nominated for Best Foreign category at the 2016 Oscars.
We couldn't find finance until the script won a very prestigious prize in France.
Dr. Pascal has inspired many in song and theatre presentation.
And in 1985, when I came, I went to the SABC on the radio, and I was the voice of Africa.
Catch Trends every Friday at 9 p.m.
I'm Peter Ndoro. And I'm Production Chetty Miller, SAB Miller, and Hauser-Busch InBev. It's something that I need to learn to say more often.
Will together produce around 1/3 of the world's beer.
It is a mouthful. Have you ever considered skin bleaching?
Nigeria tops the list of African countries with 77% of its women bleaching their skin.
Now I can see that it is not good because it affects my face and some of my body parts.
Thousands of Arab Israelis and Palestinians participated in a big rally.
Flight MH17 was shot down by a Russian-made missile.
How those chips may fall is a prediction best left to the currency of time.
That's Primetime News, Africa Journal, and Your World on SABC News.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counsellor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10.
It's 10:00 hours Central African time on this Thursday, the 17th of December 2015. Just a few more days to go before Christmas, that is. This is Newsroom, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the second hour. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from Auckland Park Studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. But first, let's take a look at all your news headlines. The U.S. Federal Reserve has raised the interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. Here at home, Communications Minister Faith Mutombe has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. And the United Nations Secretary General has described the situation in Burundi as chilling and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. Now, your top story this hour, the Rand is trading just above 15 Rand to the dollar after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. In America, that's the first increase since 2006, and there are concerns that that move could cause a ripple effect among emerging markets, including South Africa.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point, the first hike in 9 years, and a big signal that the central bank believes the U.S. economy is strong enough to merit the change in policy. Chair Janet Yellen explained the timing.
It takes time for monetary policy actions to affect future economic outcomes. Were the FOMC to delay the start of policy normalization for too long, we would likely end up having to tighten policy relatively abruptly at some point to keep the economy from overheating and inflation from significantly overshooting our objective. Such an abrupt tightening could increase the risk of pushing the economy into recession.
Yellen said policymakers were confident that inflation would reach their 2% target in the medium term, but she said the Fed did not have to reach that goal to raise rates again. The stock markets moved higher in reaction to the move. Fed policymakers next meet January 26th.
Now, the Rand currently is trading just above the $15 to the dollar after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised those interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. Now, as you heard earlier, there seems to be a ripple effect it's going to affect the developing market. So let's find out now via Skype. We are joined by the market analyst, Clive Ramatabela Smith from Ikunzi Investments. Clive, a very good morning to you and welcome. And could you tell us your reaction to the rate hike?
Well, I can tell you this, Elvis. Good morning to you and to the rest of the listeners. It was not as surprising as the Kaizer Chiefs Sundowns game yesterday. That I can tell you. So one thing that we did expect is that the markets will obviously take positive strides into this. We started seeing the Asian market as well, early hours this morning, doing relatively well. Very strong performance, showing that again, that stride of this strong dollar had significant influence in what happens in the Japanese yen, because the yen, every time you see the markets and the dollar actually goes stronger, the yen weakens, which helps the exporters because they have more yen for the dollar. So that was very exciting to see. Now, my response to it is twofold. Yes. The first one is the way that the Fed has done it is very, very good. They're slowing down. They've been saying it since the beginning of the end of the quarter last year, and this year as well. There was strong sentiment that they might just do it, and then eventually the news happened, and that's why everybody was not as surprised as you would normally be when the Fed makes decisions. So very clear cut, and even the futures, as they describe it, that the 1% will go up again through the duration of the next year. So they have strong conviction that the GDP numbers will be positive. That's been revised as well to a higher number, to 2.6% for 2016.
Now, Clive, there is a sense that this could cause a ripple effect among emerging economies. Do you share that sentiment?
We've already seen the rippling effect early hours this morning, because you remember Asian markets did trade this morning, Elvis, and they were very strong. They came out strong. They performed very well. They showed vigor. And so what I expect to see is that the South African market as well, because we're coming back, I call it a hangover, it's kama from yesterday. So, because it was a holiday. So they're coming back, they should come back better, stronger, they should come back much more positive. We should see those rand hedged stocks do relatively well today on the JSE. So that's what I expect to see.
Can South Africa escape this unscathed, knowing that we might expect a rate hike next year?
I think the worst person hit here, Elvis, now to be honest with you, is the actual South African consumer. Not only are they facing higher interest rates, not only are they facing inflation, they're facing, following the drought, obviously, we know that has now edged up food inflation as well. At a time when everybody's supposed to be celebrating and saying December, everybody's actually feeling the pinch in their pocket because they cannot spend as much as they would like to. But I'd like just to say that maybe it's a good thing in not so many ways because it constrains us, and maybe we'll be starting to save more rather than spend more, which will help us become a better saving nation, which we're not popularly known for. So I'm hoping that this will curb that. However, the most important thing to remember, the second to remember, is that in the next year, during the course of the next year, the budget is going to be very, very tough. It will be interesting to hear what Minister Plummer's board has in store for us in February, because there's going to be very much little difference in what we're earning versus what we're going to be earning next year, as the economic situation is still not at a comfortable situation.
So, Clive, are you suggesting that instead of December boss, we're going to have a Black Christmas?
As long as it doesn't come in 3-1. But here's the thing. Instead of a December boss, let's have a responsible December. Let's try and make sure that we save as much as possible. Let's spend. If you're buying for 10 people this year, buy for one. If you were planning to do anything else extravagant, don't do it. I love the people that do stock sales, because at this time of the year, they're the ones that celebrate the most. And that's why I'm only visiting stock sales this December. I'm not visiting any family members.
Clive, thank you so much for your reaction to the U.S. rate hike here on South Africa. How will it impact on us? That's Clive Ramatibela-Smith, market analyst from Nkunzi Investments via Skype, joining us now. Now, Communications Minister Faith Muthambi has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. The Broadcasting Digital Migration Project kicked off in October. 23,000 set-top boxes will be distributed free of charge to the community of Kemus in the Keiharib municipality. Now, for the latest on the set-top boxes, let's now cross live to Kakamas, where our reporter Ulrich Hendricks is standing by with the minister. A very good morning to you, Ulrich, and it's over to you first. Maybe sketch us a picture what's happening there.
Hi, good morning, Elvis. And yeah, we're broadcasting from Kakamas, where the minister has just handed over another set-top box to one of the houses here. Earlier this morning, she also handed over set-top boxes to the first recipient, Maria Slinger, who is from Kemus. She then proceeded to hand over another 3 in Kemus, and then she proceeded to come here to Kakamas. But to talk to us about this program is the minister herself. Minister, how does it feel? It's finally here?
Yes, it's happening. It's here. We've been here since morning. You can see everybody is here because we do it in partnership. The mayor is here, the premier is here, it's the government, the whole government is here. It's an exciting moment of a lifetime, especially for the people of the Northern Cape. They are the luckiest ones because they are the first to feel and touch digital migration. You'll recall this is an SK area. As government, we had the responsibility to preserve and protect the SK area. Hence, as government, we want everybody in this area to migrate. So the decision that we have taken is that because this is the SK area, everybody qualifies for the free set-top box. So I need to call people out there, because when we launched this thing, the registration process in October, some people couldn't believe it, that it's happening. Now you can get inside the house there, you'll see there's a TV that's working. What is very much exciting on my part now, instead of us restricted to a particular grouping of stations, depending on the language you speak, you can now also tune on to all 19 SABC radio stations. Then people have got the choice. That's what this digital migration is all about. The second thing is about quality and access. If you see the pictures there now, you won't suffer to have eye problems now, because it's clear quality pictures, quality sound, made here in South Africa by South African companies. And then it comes with a lot of spin-off, at least because young people now are being responsible for the installation. The companies that have been employed, we have made it a requirement that they must hire local people, young people and women in particular. Now it's happening. This is the benefit that comes with this project. People now are very excited here. I think you can hear it from the mayor and the premier, how excited they are. For us, we are saying we are the government that cares. So all the people who are calling all of them to go out and start to register so that they can be able to access their boxes. And then they'll have the advantage of quality pictures, quality sound, a lot of information that will make them make decisions in respect to their lives.
5 million people in South Africa, that's the figure that government gave initially, that will qualify for free set-top boxes. How is that process going?
Yes, it's true that through USASA we've managed to identify for the other people in the other country, like in the first state. The registration process is also started on the 1st of December. Then it means then if you earn within the income bracket of 3,002, with the exception of the people of the SKA, because I said here everybody qualifies. There's no means test. And then we'll also use the indigent registers from the municipality. You know the means test, to say that people must go there and register. Because for us to also account for the boxes, whom are we issuing to, also to avoid them being shipped out of the country. So we need people with valid South African IDs, people who have got valid TV licenses. Those that don't have TV licenses, they need now to start to go and apply for TV licenses. So the post office is ready, waiting for them so that they'll be able to access these devices that are available. You see, the other thing about the devices, they are smaller and very handy. Unlike your normal dish decoder, your Explorer decoder, that's the other thing. It saves space, and it doesn't matter what kind of a TV. Even if it's an old model television, you see high definition quality pictures. That's the advantage of this. And then at least now, South Africans, in particular the Northern Cape people now, they will also feel that they are part of South Africa, and it's coming to them free of charge. This is the government that cares.
Let's talk about the value chain of manufacturing, the manufacturing value chain of the top set boxes.
Yes, this is the question that I will ask the manufacturer himself to deal with it quickly, to say, we had said in the policy, they need to make sure that whatever they manufacture, it complies with our policy as government. Remember, the rationale behind that policy is for our people to have access. So I think I'll hand it over to Tabo.
What is the value chain? How does it work?
Yes, speaking on behalf of the manufacturers, I think this is the first session done by our government. Black people are the ones that got the larger cake of this, and this is a transformation account. Also, it has resuscitated the electronic manufacturing industry. In our variety of factories, we have employed youth, particularly women, youth of between 19, 22 to 23 to 24. But there are a lot of spin-offs in terms of electronic industry. But it does not only go there, it goes in terms of how far are we going to have a repair center and maintenance center. As the industry, we are looking at establishing provincial repair center for this set of boxes, to have youth to be trained at our center there in Randburg. So it is goes a milestone in terms of creating jobs for the youth, both on software and hardware level.
Thank you very much, Tabo. This is quite an exciting day for the Northern Cape. It was the first province to be getting these top set boxes. Premier, how do you feel, Premier Sylvia Lucas?
I thought you want me to speak Afrikaans, but we are quite elated. You know, we are a province of firsts, and I've said it before, we are a rural and mostly poor province. But today we are making history. We are definitely making history as the first province to be migrated to digital. And we've been waiting for this for a long time, and it's actually happening now. And I actually want to really express our gratitude and our appreciation to the Minister of Communications and also for the cabinet for choosing us to be the province, to be. Actually, we are launching the digital migration here in the Northern Cape and in Salyer for that matter. I don't know whether many people all over know Salyer or Keimus or whatever, but we are just putting Northern Cape on the map, and we are very, very pleased, and we are also pleased to hear that besides the fact that there will be some jobs, there will be some skills, there will also be an opportunity for small business to buy in if there is repair centers and so on, which means the value chain is ever extending and the downstream beneficiation is there, and we are really, really, really proud to be part of this good story as the Northern Cape.
Thank you, Minister. Premier Minister, what's the way forward now?
Yes, Cabinet has approved the dual illumination period. It's going to be effective from the 1st of February next year, 2016. It means that these local manufacturers as well, apart from the government boxes that they are doing, they'll have to make these devices available at store so that everybody can buy. The beauty of it, you buy it is once off. Then you've got access. That's universal access. That's the agenda. And then our plan is that when we reach 90%, when 90% of the population they've reached 90%, we're going to switch off. So people must make sure that they are now prepared, because there will be time when we'll announce the switch off date.
Thank you very much. The Minister of Communications, Faith Mutambi, talking to us about the DTT migration process that kicked off in Keimus and Kakamas today. Well, it's back to the studio.
Thank you, Ulrich. And as you know, the Northern Cape is very progressive. The first province in the country that has got DDT migration. And of course, as you know, Kimberley, the very first town in this country that was electrified. You know that, of course. But let's move further afield. The United Nations Secretary General has described the situation in Burundi as chilling and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. In his final press conference for the year, Ban Ki-moon was questioned on whether the UN was doing enough to facilitate the dialogue in the East African country.
He says he's dispatching his special advisor on Burundi to the region immediately, but concerns are being raised that this might not be enough.
Given the escalation that you've spoken about in Burundi, including the attacks that led to almost 100 deaths last Friday, and in light of the fact that a senior Security Council diplomat has described the situation as a country that is going to hell, would you concede, sir, that your recommendation of a reinforced team to back your special advisor is perhaps not an adequate response to the evolving situation on the ground?
Of course, there are different options. At this time, I am encouraged that President Nkurunziza had met Mr. Ben Omar, my special advisor, and is continuously be available for consultation. We will take necessary actions as we observe and watch the situation, how it evolves. Depending upon the evolution of the situation, we may have to level up our presence and our activities.
The meeting is adjourned.
Reports have emerged of private email correspondence from U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power to council colleagues describing Burundi as, quote, going to hell.
I don't think you need me to tell you how horrific the situation has been on the ground. We've all seen the images of people with their hands tied behind their backs and bullet holes through their heads. Many council members are very eager to see the pace of contingency planning by the UN accelerated.
She warned that the country's conflict now risked becoming more of an ethnic rather than political one. Sherban Bryceby's SABC News, New York.
Welcome back. Time for us to take a look at what has been happening in the world of sport. Here in South Africa, Mamelodi Sundowns thrashed Kaizer Chiefs 3-1 to lift the Telkom Knockout Trophy for the third time in the club's history. Goalkeeper Dennis Onyango was the hero of the day at Moses Mabhida Stadium for Sundowns, saving 2 penalties in the second half to pave the way to victory. Coach Pitso Mosimane has now won every domestic top-flight piece of silverware in his career as a manager. Let's just take a look back at the highlights of the match.
Pass the ball when you have to, shoot when you have to, so don't do anything extraordinary.
I think what Steve Komphela wants is a side that moves forward a little more than they did in the MTN8 final. Ball in here, wonderful from Sundowns, early chance and it's in! It stayed onside, Castro scores 4 minutes in. The Colombian that Pitso Mosimane has kept faith in for the large part of the past few months. This one against Onyango. Chabalala denied! This is certainly not Chiefs night. Dennis Onyango, outstanding. He's been fouled in the area as well.
Whoa! This is Dennis Onyango's show!
Can play as a striker. Kigana threatened to shoot but didn't. Takes a shot, snapshot, third goal, game, set and match.
I think we played well. I was disappointed with the goal at the end that we conceded. I think we lack concentration and we were excited a little bit and we didn't do our defensive duties. I mean, we played well, Pena, and we have to give respect to Kaizer Chiefs. We have to give respect to Steve Komphela. He's my brother. I want him to win the first cup, but I can't because I've got people from Pretoria here. Chiefs is a very good team. They came up with combination plays, and they gave us problems with combination play. And we have to sit a little bit and organize. But we know we have the speed, and we have the speed, and we harm them with the speed. But I said it earlier, we had the goals. We don't struggle to score the goals. We had the goals.
You don't know what would it take to get the ball inside the net. The number of chances we had, missing 2 penalties as well. And I think the difference between the two teams was being clinical whenever a chance prevailed. The first goal was a diagonal ball, failed to control the switch and a touch. The second one, a set piece, and the third one, the lack of marking in front of the box. But I strongly believe the match could have ended 5-3 in our favor, or 4-3. Missing 2 penalties and the chances that we miss. I don't even know how Hamaldin scored the last one there. You know, there's a stage where you keep on hitting and hitting and hitting, you're missing, and you're saying it will not go inside. It was one of those days, painful, yes, but you gotta stand up, dust yourself and move on.
2 second-half penalties missed by Kaizer Chiefs. What can you say? The referee even tried, but it was always going to be Sundowns' night. Now, we move on. A FIFA court will start hearing the cases of suspended World Football President Sepp Blatter and UEFA Chief Michel Platini on corruption charges in Zurich, Switzerland today. Blatter is being investigated in connection with a 30 million rand payment that FIFA made to Platini about 4 years ago. Both have denied any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, large-scale investigations into corruption and, well, in football and athletics continue.
Marine is one of several high-ranking FIFA officials who are apparently set to receive more than R1 billion in bribes in exchange for the media and commercial rights for regional tournaments. The 83-year-old headed Brazil's preparations to host last year's FIFA World Cup, but he's currently under house arrest after being granted bail of around 225 million rand. Last month, he pleaded not guilty to the charges. Joining Marine in court was the only American involved in the FIFA probe, marketing executive Aaron Davidson. Davidson is now also under house arrest after being granted bail of 60 million rand. Marine's predecessor, Marco Polo Del Nero, also maintains his innocence after being accused of participating in schemes which involved millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks. Del Nero told a local congressional probe into the matter that it is all a misunderstanding and added that he was collecting evidence to defend himself in court. Outside the building, protesters called for his resignation. Meanwhile, U.S. authorities have announced that El Salvador's former Soccer Federation president, Reinaldo Vazquez, has been detained. Vazquez's extradition was approved earlier this month. He's wanted in connection with 5 cases of alleged bribery linked to commercial deals for the broadcasting of qualifiers for the 2014 and 2018 World Cups. And an IAAF Ethics Commission hearing into the conduct of 4 senior athletics officials continues in London today. Papa Masate Diak, the son of former IAAF President Lamine Diak, is charged with various breaches of the body's ethics code. The other accused include the IAAF's former head of anti-doping Gabriel Doll and the former Russian Athletic Federation President Valentin Balaknichev, though not attending the hearing. The 4 are accused of covering up widespread doping in Russian athletics. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Shark attack survivor Mick Fanning, who's currently leading the World Surfing Championship standings, has once again shown his resilience. After learning about the death of his brother, he managed to advance through 2 heats and into the quarterfinals at the last stop on the World Championship Tour, the Billabong Park Masters. Contention for the world title, Fanning, Australia, Brazil's Adriano de Souza and fellow countryman Gabriel Medina, who saw past South Africa's Jordy Smith in the 3rd round. Fanning maintained his challenge on a 4th world crown when he went up against John Florence and Kelly Slater in the 4th round. He scored an impressive 9.3 with that ride to go through with a heat total of 17.3 points, despite a strong finish from the legendary Kelly Slater.
When you're paddling out against John and Kelly, 2 of the greatest tube riders, I just tried to, I was just like, oh, if the waves come, they come, and, you know, just do my best, and I guess I got it. Yeah, been a huge day. Just got some personal stuff going on at home, and it's sort of heavy to talk about right now, but yeah, I don't know, I'm just sort of just cruising and just trying to live.
Well, that's where we wrap the sport for this morning. When we come back, Elvis will have a look at the top stories on the continent. See you then.
SABC, a national public broadcaster with the power of 19 radio stations and 5 television channels, is taking the next step into digital migration with top-spec production facilities. The era of digital migration has arrived, and SABC is ready to service the nation with cutting-edge technology and continue to tell South African stories through award-winning local and international content. On the 17th of December 2015, catch Minister of Communications, Honorable Faith Mutami, during the launch of the DTT DTH STB rollout in Northern Cape Gamos and Gamas. SABC, we are ready.
Now let's take a look at your headlines in African news this morning. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon yesterday called for urgent talks in Burundi to avoid the outbreak of a civil war. Now, this comes after the nation defended its security forces' actions and rejected offers by foreign troops to intervene. Ban says he would send his special advisor Jamal Ben Omar to the region for talks with the Burundi government. In the worst clashes since a military coup was foiled in May, insurgents attacked military camps in the capital Bujumbura on Friday, leaving nearly 90 people dead. And the leader of Mozambique's Renamo opposition party, Afonso Dhlakama, says that he plans to take over the north of the country next year. Lekama yesterday broke a month-long silence during a video conference in Maputo. The long-term leader, who has not made a public appearance since October, said he was alive and well despite negative rumors. Lekama sought refuge in the town of Satunjera after police forced his personal guard to surrender outside his house in Beirut. Now, Renamo, which waged a 16-year civil war until 1992, has repeatedly threatened to take power. And that could spell some disastrous effect for the holiday season in Mozambique. The United States embassy yesterday called for an investigation on the Nigerian army. This comes after troops raided a Shiite sect, leaving hundreds of people dead. Details of the weekend's attacks in Zaria were slow to emerge due to a lockdown in the area. Nigeria's interior minister is expected to visit the area early next week. And the Seychelles took to the polls yesterday in the second round of a presidential election. The incumbent, President 71-year-old James Michel, has been in power for 38 years and is seeking a third term. It is the first time a runoff ballot is being held in the Seychelles, where voting runs over 3 days because of massive distance between 115 islands. Results are expected tomorrow. Now, those are all your headlines on the African slot. Now, taking a look at the positive aspects of the African continent, there's continued opportunity across Africa for investment and opportunity for growth, despite the risks such as commodity downturns and security threats. Africa offers many opportunities with oil exploration, natural resources, large masses of open land, ICT and technology, and so much more. There are several sectors in the African economy that are experiencing high volume growth next year. And to tell us more about these and other trends, joining us in studio is an avid African traveler and author of Connect with the Continent, Terry Behan. Terry, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, we've heard and seen what's happening in Africa, but let's talk about the things that is really happening right now in Africa. What is more prevalent in terms of growth that people are not really noticing?
Sure. I mean, I think the overall impression is continentally it's going to be a tough year next year, and that's absolutely true. But there are some really interesting pockets of growth that demonstrate the resilience of the African continent, the resilience of the markets, and kind of how they're growing. I think the three really areas that we'll talk about is, funny enough, insurance, mobile education, mobile telephony, and also design.
So let's start with insurance. Now that's one that we need to talk about, because the insurance sector in South Africa is well developed, but it's not so developed on the continent, if I'm not mistaken.
No, completely. I mean, it's incredibly underdeveloped. You get places like Nigeria where they reckon 0.04% of the population is insured. So looking at the size of a country like that, you can imagine what the growth is going to look like. Yes. What's really interesting is the diversity of that growth. So it's not homogenous. It's very different in different countries. So in Ghana, the big boom in insurance is in funeral insurance, something we're very familiar with here, but something that's quite new there. And that's sold by mobile money on MTN's platform. Equally so in countries like Nigeria, funeral insurance is completely taboo. It's not something that you culturally would go out and buy. But typically that's a middle class that's growing quite rapidly. So motor insurance, household insurance in those markets, to the more traditional insurance retailers, is doing really well. We saw this year AXA Insurance come in from France and into a partnership with Mansard, which makes them a really significant player in that region. And then you have, just traditional risk-based insurance if you're buying, or credit-based insurance if you're buying things like furniture or household appliances, a bit of insurance product added onto that. That's growing quite rapidly in places like Botswana, but it's not been done through a mobile platform. It's been done through the post office, because the Botswanan post office is a really well distributed system. They're in all of the what they call districts across the country, so people use them quite regularly. So it's very different in different markets, but what's clear is as the continent gains a little bit more economic value, people are starting to see the importance of insurance, and then starting to buy those products, but in very, very different ways.
And is this more in West or East Africa? Or?
It's across the board. I mean, in East Africa, it's a little bit more established. But you have a lot of mobile transactions also being done in places like East Africa. So it really depends on the country. But the general thing is it's definitely a growth sector, but the growth is quite diffuse. Now,
we heard a lot about the importance of mobile technology on the continent. Is that a growing phenomenon that we've seen everywhere else on the continent?
Sure. I mean, mobile telephony is going to continue to grow for the next decade or so. But what the really interesting growth area is what it's doing. So everybody has a cell phone. I think that's been a sort of well-established fact for a period of time. But now what we find is that we're coming up with these next generation cell phones that are essentially very cheap smartphones and very cheap smart tablets. So you have quite a large boom in the area we call mobile education, where in 2012 it was a $100 million industry. By 2017 they estimated it will be a $500 million industry. And this is where people are choosing to learn on mobile platforms.
Now, that education is important, but here in Newsroom, we always are passionate about Africa's design, and we believe that there's one sector to watch in 2016. You want to tell us more about that?
Sure. I mean, this is something that's been growing, quite beautifully over the last couple of years. It's really now starting to tip. I think there's some factors that play to its advantage. The first thing is, despite the trauma the currency is suffering, it makes us a fairly low-cost manufacturing base. So producing goods of quality in places like South Africa, in Kenya, in Ghana, means that we can get into the market at a reasonable cost. The second thing is African design offers the world something it's kind of never seen before. So people are quite intrigued by the process, they're quite intrigued by the outcome. And design has shifted globally to be very focused on handmade design. And that benefits this part of the world more so than others because we are relatively unmechanized. Yes. So what that means is that in places like Christie's which is the #1 gallery probably in the world, in London, had a show a couple of months ago where the entire range that was produced from Southern Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa sold out. The team from Southern Guild has just come back from Design Miami. They had a sellout show there as well. And that's on the what we call collectible design. But then we also have what we call commercial design, which are ranges of mid-market product ranges that are produced at a reasonable price in places like Russia, Japan, China, markets that historically have not had a design focus on this part of the world are now taking a specific interest. So we think 2016 is going to be an incredibly big focus on design, but a growth area from a financial point of view as well.
And why is that fascination with Africa design? Is it because it's relatively new?
It is relatively new. I mean, if you look at it 10 years ago, at any airport you went to in Africa, you'll pick up these really funny wooden statues, probably all manufactured in some sweatshop in Taiwan, but not really representing who we are and what we stand for. More recently, what you've seen is African designers connecting with their cultural heritage, but then modernizing and not necessarily westernizing. So they've come up with these really interesting design processes that make the product look different, feel different, and most of the time it's got a great story attached to it.
2016 around the corner. What are you up to in 2016?
2016 is going to be a great year. We have another book coming out focusing on key trends across the continent. A new advisory business coming into the market that's going to help businesses tap into a lot of these trends. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting time.
Wonderful. Terry, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks, Elvis.
That was avid African traveler and author of Connect with the Continent. You should do that. Read that book as well. Terry Behan joining us here in studio. Now, Africa is estimated to have the highest burden of foodborne diseases. Now, this is according to the first ever estimates released by the World Health Organization yesterday. Listen to this. 1 in 10 people fall ill every year from eating contaminated food, and 420,000 die as a result of that. The report says that these illnesses are common in developing countries, particularly in Africa, with over 600 million people getting ill each year. We were recently joined via Skype from Geneva by the World Health Organization Director of the Department of Food Safety and Zoonoses, Dr. Kazuyoki Miyagishima, and we asked him about the African countries that are most affected.
You already mentioned that 600 million people fall ill every year. Among them, about 15% of people are living in the African continent. But if you look at the death toll, which is about 420,000 people dying every year, or about 1/3 of those people who die, unfortunately, live in Africa. I cannot mention you specific names of the countries, but of African countries, especially those countries with low or middle income, they are the most vulnerable to the foodborne diseases.
What are some of the major causes, doctor, of these foodborne diseases?
The great majority of foodborne diseases are caused by diarrheal diseases like salmonella, pathogenic E. coli, or even cholera. However, the particularity of the African continent is that there is a significant contribution of chemical contamination, such as cyanide included in the poorly processed cassava flour, or aflatoxin, which is a toxin produced by mold on grains.
Which food has the highest risk of causing these type of illnesses, doctor? Because my grandmother used to say if you eat fish that is contaminated, that will make you ill.
Well, of course, the foodborne pathogens, that can be bacteria, can be parasites, can be virus, or chemical contaminants. There are many different hazards, and there are different ways to prevent them. It is difficult to prevent chemical contamination at home because there is no easy way to remove chemical contaminants at home. But when the hazards are of microbiological origin, by applying good hygienic practices at home, such as keep clean the hands, cupboards, and kitchen, use safe water and ingredients, cook properly, separate cooked and raw materials, or keep cooked foods at a safe temperature, you can eliminate most of the microbiological hazards. And this is a way consumers can protect themselves.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of foods are more perceptive to these type of illnesses? Is it dry foods, or is it more sort of meat and fish and chicken?
Well, chemical contaminants can be in dried food like grains or even dried fruits, while microbiological hazards are mostly borne by fresh produce such as meat, fish, or even fresh vegetables if the surface is contaminated by bacteria.
Mm-hmm. Now, the report suggests that 1 in 5 children who are under the age of 5 years are victims of foodborne diseases. Why is this the case?
Well, children have the immune system that is not fully developed at the level of adults. So that's the reason why they are vulnerable to pick up disease. And when they pick up a pathogen or infection, the illness tends to become severe. And this is the reason why children, they constitute only 9% of the world population, they carry 1/3 of the world death toll.
Now, Doctor, what sort of standards can African governments use to safeguard food security?
All African countries are part of the FAO and WHO, the two major international organizations fighting foodborne diseases. And also we have an international standard-setting body called Codex Alimentarius. And all African countries are members of this body, and there is a good bunch of international standards that have been developed to protect consumers and safeguard food produce. By adhering to these standards, the countries can make sure that the food supply domestically is safe, and also they can export safe food to other countries and then boosting the sustainable development.
Welcome back. Well, that was Africa Slot. Now time for something a little bit different. Psychics are people who claim that they can predict the future, read people's minds, or otherwise obtain information that would be inaccessible. Now, Shannon Warburton, South Africa's top psychic, known nationwide for quick wit and spookily accurate answers on radio stations such as Metro FM, 702 Cape Talk, Power FM, and Radio Today. Well, Shannon has helped more than 20,000 clients directly since she began practicing as a psychic in 2003, and is also author of Guided, How to Communicate with Your Spirit Guides. Now, Shannon, we're fortunate to have Shannon with us in studio today to give us a little bit of an insight into this, but we're also going to talk to somebody ahead of the festive season to, I don't know, gauge how they're going to be doing or what they should be doing. Good morning.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you with us here, Shannon. such an interesting field. There's so much that we don't know, or that we don't even know that we don't know.
Sure.
Tell us about your experience. How did you discover that you were psychic, and how has this changed your life in the years?
So I was born in America in 1969, and I started to travel when I was 18, and I went to many different countries, working mostly for NGOs as a journalist. In 2003, I had a beautiful and amazing spiritual experience in which I heard an external voice saying, now it's time for you to help other people. By that time, I was already living in South Africa. South Africa is the perfect place to do this. People wear their hearts on their sleeves, and they're very aware spiritually and religiously and also intellectually. It's also full of entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur coach.
Yeah.
I believe that that's the future for Africa.
Now, skeptics are always around, and people like to dismiss the work that you do as nonsense. What do you say to these people?
I say we can each be our own psychics. We can get our own answers. Each person is an antenna receiving messages from the divine intelligence. I don't claim to be the person who can help you. I think you can help you, and I'd like to help you help you.
Fantastic. I like that. Help you, help you. Help me, help you. Help you, help you. Great. Now, there's a story that, you know, in today's world, there are a lot of fakes out there, people who claim to have the gift, people who claim that they can help people. How do you distinguish between somebody who's trying to relieve you of your money and somebody who's doing a real proper job?
Perfect. I do a lot of community service on the radio. I do hour-long radio programs where people call in. And I always ask them, is that true? Is it true that your dad was a carpenter and you've got a garage full of tools and you can open up your own woodworking shop? And he says, yeah, but I never thought about it like that. Okay, I'll do that. So it has to be true. It has to be factual. If you go to a psychic and she says, you're at a crossroads, you're like, yeah, why am I coming to a psychic? Of course, I'm having a bad time. So listen for facts. That's very important.
And what's the most common scenarios or help that you offer people? I mean,
I have top 10 questions that people always ask.
Yeah?
Should I marry my baby daddy? That is that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Or, you know, should I marry this guy? What should I do for my work? What is my life's purpose? People really want that. It's a very soulful question. What's wrong with why do I have headaches? How can I make more money? How can I become financially free? How can I be a better parent to my children? People care. How can I give back to my community? Those are questions that are very heart-based questions, and those are South Africa's top questions.
That's fantastic to hear. Well, we've opened the lines and we've asked people to call in and I don't know, ask you a question and maybe you can help them. Do we have anyone on the line?
Hello.
Hi, good morning. Are you going to be anonymous or do you just have a question?
No, I'd like to stay anonymous, and I do have a question.
Okay.
I'd like to know the career path that I've chosen. Should I continue with it, or should I look to broaden my horizons?
Your career path needs to be expanded. So what you do right now it's connected to language, but your angels are asking for you to expand into print. And so they're talking about long-form stories, either articles for a magazine like the Daily Maverick, which is a more intellectual magazine, or maybe a novel. They're telling me that you have a novel waiting in you that looks a little bit like Catcher in the Rye or To Kill a Mockingbird. Would you consider that? Is that something that you would like to take on?
Writing a book?
Yeah.
I first need to be able to write an essay.
Okay.
But yes, I do have stories within me to tell.
I really believe that. I believe that your stories can help other people. Please put them on paper and get them out there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Shannon, that's fantastic, amazing. Just tell me quickly about myself. How am I looking for next year?
You're looking very healthy, and what I see is that you're getting fitter and fitter. I don't know what your personal fitness plan is, but they're telling me that your angels are telling me that you're embarking on a new goal, and it's to eat paleo. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about eating
I have.
paleo?
I'm actually in the process of, at the end of every year, I kind of reset my sights and I go into a new cycle with completely new ideas, and that's exactly what I've been thinking about.
Okay, so there's a book called something like Practical Paleo. You don't have to go 1,000% paleo. You can have a nougat or a chocolate or something.
Yes.
Don't kill yourself. Just go halfway paleo.
I'm definitely going to come and see you for a little bit more work, because my current guides, that's my chiropractor and my 2 therapists, you're fired. Thank you very much for joining us today, Shannon. It's time for us now to shift our focus again. Obviously standing by with that intrepid weatherman, stroke meteorologist, stroke green issues environmentalist, climate change expert, and handsome young man, voted most eligible bachelor here at SABC News, Tsietse Monare.
Well, that's right, Eben. But now you know that more than 190 countries came together to adopt the most ambitious climate change agreement in the history during the 21st Conference of the Parties in Paris, in France. Now, this agreement established a long-term and durable global framework to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions. Now, meteorologist Paul Tsietse is joining us today to talk about what the agreement really entails and what it means for us here in South Africa. Paul, a very good morning to you and welcome.
A very good morning, Elvis.
Now, before we talk about the agreement itself, let's just remind us of what happened last year at COP20. And, of course, we know the disastrous effect at Copenhagen a couple of years ago.
Yeah, actually, I'm very glad that you brought Copenhagen up because, I mean, actually nothing happened between then and maybe just around 2012, 2011. I mean, when we had COP17 here in Durban, that's when most of the agreements or the talks actually started taking real shape, and it was becoming more of a good step towards the future, where we look like now we're about to come up with something tangible and not just having parties every single year and moving along. It was actually a good year to bring up with Copenhagen. But then last year with Lima, COP20, what happened was that these guys now came up with more sort of a binding agreements where they got most countries, although they were still deciding what they wanted to do themselves. And you came up with China that said, you know what, we've got so many, I mean India that said we've got so many people that still don't have electricity, so clearly we are not contributing to climate change. So we should be let to pollute, use cheaper coal and all the other emissions or greenhouse gases that that are more affordable and that could lead to our development, just like the more developed countries did during the Industrial Revolution up until more recently. So then they came up with strategies to fit each and every country's needs, also trying to curb the emissions levels and moving towards greener energies. So what happened last year was that they came up with these sustainable, innovative ideas, and it sort of laid the good grounds for Paris. And Paris was the where people actually said, okay, this is what we did over the last couple of months or the last couple of years, and we think this is working for us now. Now we are ready to put it in paper and say we are going to stick with this, and we are going to make sure that we actually review this after a year or two and see if we have stuck to it, and also try to keep it clean.
Now, 2 degrees Celsius, that was the magical number that we all try to work towards to curb greenhouse gas emissions. But take us through the key elements of the COP21 agreement.
Yes, well, the 2 degrees, even if we can get below that would be fantastic, but it's still going to be very difficult because the lifespan of carbon in the atmosphere. I mean, it stays there for hundreds of years, and that means it's still going to get warmer and warmer. But the ambitious number, and also that word ambitious is just the key word that they're trying to stick with, is that drastic measures have to be taken. And one of the key elements that came out of this whole agreement now in Paris was that almost everybody is doing their level best to make sure that they do not exceed 2 degrees. Because once we get to 4 and 6 degrees, now it's going to be quite detrimental for all of us, not just the big countries or the ones where there's ice caps and so forth. It's going to get really bad for most of us. We've already experienced the heat waves that are happening here, and that's all because of the El Nino that took place over the Pacific. And that is coming in because of the warm air that we're having around the planet that's making the sea surface temperature even much higher. So yeah, those elements are really, really important, and they need to be followed.
Eben, you are joining us because it's a very interesting discussion, isn't it?
It is. It's the discussion that's going to define the next century. But I've got this thing because, COP22 is now next year, and we've got this great agreement. We've got a roadmap, we've got a plan. It's nice to have that, Tsietse. But how are we going to keep the big nations accountable? How are we going to police this whole thing? Because it's one thing to put it down on paper, it's another thing to actually practice it and hold people accountable. How are we going to do that?
And especially in South Africa, where we lack implementation.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised to learn that South Africa is actually one of the leading countries in getting climate change sort of scraped out of the way and also engaging these talks. We are one of the best when it comes to our negotiations, and actually we're acting on it. We are on the top. But now, what Eben asks is that how do we actually implement it and how do we police this? And what happened with Paris is that these guys now came up with legally binding policies and rules. So now when your country says, okay, we are writing it down, pledging to drop our emissions by such a percentage, now that gets recorded in paper, and within a 5-year period, and they made it now into 5-year period, so now you're not going to wait for 2099 or whatever. It's just a 5-year period now where they will be reviewed, and they legally bound themselves to be reviewed by external countries and obviously external bodies that will be watching all of these carbon pricing and carbon taxing will be implemented, and those countries will be penalized in that way. So if they do not stick to their numbers, their averages that they're planning to keep by, they will be legally held accountable for that, and they will be punished.
There was also the bun fight about the finance for developing countries.
Yes.
What's happening with that?
That's the big issue now. And we've seen bigwigs like the United States saying that they're increasing their budget to help developing countries, because developing countries and the smaller islands are the ones that are going to be severely affected. If you think about sea level rising, all these islands could be flooded. If you think about adapting to climate change, we do not really have that much money to build sea level rise walls to mitigate for, in case the sea rises, or also for desertification. I mean, the Sahara Desert might even grow bigger and bigger. And then what happens then? So now these guys have said, okay, like the United States, it's also a big number in the regions of 400 to 500 billion rands a year that they be trying to put aside just for climate change. And this can only come from their measures that they'll be taking to make sure that green energy is available, readily available for many developing countries, because it's a big thing. How do we convert from cheaper coal to having solar panels all over the place, which cost a lot of money? Yes, and those big nations like the United States have already made those pledges saying, we'll put money aside for that, and we'll see what we can do from it.
So as the world, can we rest assured that this will assist us in the future, and can we now have a December boss with warmer temperatures?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to say, we all need to be rest assured. I think what needs to be taken care of is the mitigation and the adapting thereof, because climate change is still going to happen. Whether we reduce our emissions or not, it's still going to get hotter. So we need to make sure that adaptability, the money for adaptability is there and it's ready for all of us.
Tsetse Manari, meteorologist here in studio with us, talking more about what the COP21 agreement entails and what it meant for us here in South Africa. Thank you so much, Tsetse, for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we'll be taking a short break, and we'll be right back after that.
Media Monitor, your weekly media news review program.
It was squashed some few months back, but obviously this is something that is going to hang around Pravin until it is actually dealt with. If he didn't know, then he wasn't doing his job.
In it, she described how the man's hair was frozen, although the man has no hair.
Is anybody volunteering to go to jail for him? That is not how the law works.
This particular matter makes us really look like a serious banana republic.
Unpacking headlines and giving analysis on topical issues. Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Your World makes it its business every evening to round up the leading local stories and international news to keep you informed all the time.
Make a date with Your World every evening for all the news headlines around the world to keep you abreast with knowledge.
Catch Your World for headlines across the world every Monday to Friday from 9 p.m, then Saturday and Sunday from 7 p.m.
In Africa, technology has created many new ways of doing things.
ICT is an increasingly important part of everybody's life.
It's being used in education, for social media, and now for farming too.
The best thing about internet for a farmer is that we get to share information.
On Network, we give you all the important African technology and social media news. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, only on SABC News.
It's 1100 hours Central Africa time on this Thursday, the 17th of December 2015. This is Newsroom, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the final hour. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios in Johannesburg, South Africa, to the rest of the African continent. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. But first, let's take a look at all your headlines. The rand is trading just above 15 to the dollar after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised the interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. Communications Minister Faith Mutamba has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. And the United Nations General Secretary has described the situation in Burundi as chilling and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. Now, those are all your headlines. Our top story this hour: the rand is trading just above 15 to the dollar. That's after the U.S. Federal Reserve raised those interest rates by 1/4 percentage point. In America, it's the first increase since 2006, and there are concerns that the move could cause a ripple effect among emerging markets, including South Africa.
The Federal Reserve raised interest rates by 1/4 percentage point, the first hike in 9 years, and a big signal that the central bank believes the U.S. economy is strong enough to merit the change in policy. Chair Janet Yellen explained the timing.
It takes time for monetary policy actions to affect future economic outcomes. Were the FOMC to delay the start of policy normalization for too long, we would likely end up having to tighten policy relatively abruptly at some point to keep the economy from overheating and inflation from significantly overshooting our objective. Such an abrupt tightening could increase the risk of pushing the economy into recession.
Yellen said policymakers were confident that inflation would reach their 2% target in the medium term, but she said the Fed did not have to reach that goal to raise rates again. The stock markets moved higher in reaction to the move. Fed policymakers next meet January 26th.
Breaking news now: the High Court in Johannesburg has set aside an interdict preventing the business day, Money Web and Media 24 from publishing South African Airways' leaked internal memo. Now, 3 weeks ago, if you can recall, the national carrier was granted an interim order preventing the three media organizations from publishing the memo. The contents of that memo says that SAA should urgently apply for a business rescue. We'll bring you more on that story as soon as we get some more news on it. Right now, the Communication Minister, Faith Mutamba, has handed over the first set-top boxes in the Northern Cape. The Broadcasting Digital Migration Project kicked off in October. 23,000 set-top boxes will be distributed free of charge to the community of Kemus in the Keiharip municipality. This follows the gazetting of the digital terrestrial television policy in March. Mutamba has urged community members to register at their local post offices for the television devices.
We've been here since morning. You can see everybody is here because we do it in partnership. The mayor is here, the premier is here, it's the government, the whole government is here. It's an exciting moment of a lifetime, especially for the people of the Northern Cape. They are the luckiest ones because they are the first to feel and touch digital migration. You'll recall this is an SK area. As government, we had the responsibility to preserve and protect the SK area. Hence, as government, we want everybody in this area to migrate. So the decision that we have taken is that because this is the SK area, everybody qualifies for the free set-top box. So I need to call people out there because when we launched this thing, the registration process in October, some people couldn't believe it that it's happening. Now you can get inside the house there, you'll see there's a TV TV that's working. What is very much exciting on my part now, instead of us restricted to a particular grouping of stations, depending on the language you speak, you can now also tune on to all 19 SABC radio stations. Then people have got the choice. That's what this digital migration is all about. The second thing is about quality and access. If you see the pictures there now, you won't suffer to have eye problems now because it's clear, quality pictures, quality sound, made here in South Africa by South African companies. And then it comes with a lot of spin-off, at least because young people now are being responsible for the installation. The companies that have been employed, we have made it a requirement that they must hire local people, young people and women in particular.
Just did was the first step in a long journey. The Chinese say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. For us, the first set-top box here is a journey of 5 million households to receive these boxes from government, the subsidized boxes. We know that it is going to be a long journey. It is a journey that is going to be going through mountains and difficulties, but we are prepared for it.
A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and it's going to be a long walk to freedom. Meanwhile, the Nelson Mandela Metro summer season is officially underway with a long list, as long as your arm, of things to do this holiday season. Sun, sea and endless beaches and numerous events are lined up to keep the most discerning tourist very happy.
The traditional and popular season opener once again wowed the crowd. Thousands of holidaymakers out to watch the fireworks. These events are part of the tourism drawcard for the Metro, but the main players are its 3 blue flag beaches. More than 40 countries, including Morocco, Tunisia, New Zealand, Brazil, Canada and the Caribbean and several in Europe, are participating in the program. There are nearly 4,000 blue flag beaches and marinas around the world.
We're standing here at the Hobby Beach, one of our blue flag beaches, and there's entertainment galore, in terms of the program, and there's a bit of everything for everyone. There's fun, there's family events, we've got beautiful beaches, obviously, and there's everything for everyone in Nelson Mandela Bay, and the weather is beautiful.
The region also offers much more away from the beach.
There's a beautiful Sundays River. People can experience the Sundays River cruise. We've got some activities out in Addo. There's an Addo Adrenaline with a double zip line, as well as the famous Addo Elephant Park. And if they want to explore even further, they can go further down to Tsitsikamma and to have loads of fun and activities down there.
The local hospitality industry is also reporting healthy reservation numbers and expecting these to improve further on from the weekend. Janine Lee, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Meanwhile, close to 500,000 holidaymakers are expected to visit the eastern coastline between KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape. A contingent of police were deployed to monitor the situation.
Gridlocked as is the norm at this time of the year, meeting at the beach is now a tradition for many, a time to be with friends and family.
It was fascinating to see so many people coming together on the beach, standing in the waves and the surf, holding hands, just fascinating.
While the mood was jovial for many, some still found something to worry about.
It is difficult to enjoy this holiday because there is just too many people. Youngsters are here with children, and sadly, children get lost on days like this.
A large contingent of lifeguards patrol the beaches.
Just received numbers that there are children and kids who have actually lost with their families. But what we are doing, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, those kids are actually connected with their parents, especially around this particular time.
Thousands of wristbands with all relevant information were provided for children, making it easier for the parents of those who go wandering around to track them down. Subongo Ngembata for SABC News, Durban.
And that message is absolutely clear when you visit the beach. Make sure that your kids are safe and that they're close to you. Don't lose them in the crowd because it can get hectic. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary-General has described the situation in Burundi as chilling and confirmed the organization's position that the country is on the brink of civil war. In his final press conference for the year, Ban Ki-moon was questioned on whether the UN was doing enough to facilitate the dialogue in the East African country.
He says he's dispatching his special advisor on Burundi to the region immediately, but concerns are being raised that this might not be enough.
Given the escalation that you've spoken about in Burundi, including the attacks that led to almost 100 deaths last Friday, and in light of the fact that a senior Security Council diplomat has described the situation as a country that is going to hell, would you concede, sir, that your recommendation of a reinforced team to back your special advisor is perhaps not an adequate response to the evolving situation on the ground?
Of course, there are different options. At this time, I am encouraged that President Nkurunziza had met Mr. Ben Omar, my special advisor, and is continuously be available for consultation. We will take necessary actions as we observe and watch the situation, how it evolves. Depending upon the evolution of the situation, we may have to level up our presence and our activities.
The meeting is adjourned.
Reports have emerged of private email correspondence from U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power to council colleagues describing Burundi as, quote, going to hell.
I don't think you need me to tell you how horrific the situation has been on the ground. We've all seen the images of people with their hands tied behind their backs and bullet holes through their heads. Many council members are very eager to see the pace of contingency planning by the UN accelerated.
She warned that the country's conflict now risked becoming more of an ethnic rather than political one. Sherban Bryshby's SABC News, New York.
Africa is lobbying for more access to duty-free global markets for agricultural products, the removal of agricultural subsidies for rich nations, and domestic support to cushion exports from domestic markets from competition. The continent's trade ministers say that success for them at the ongoing ministerial conference in Nairobi will mean achieving a trading system that level the playing field and help developing countries lift people out of poverty through trade. Our special reporter Sarah Kamani reports.
Africa comes to Nairobi with high expectations. African trade ministers will be hoping to break a 14-year deadlock on talks between them and developed countries.
Our expectations are that this conference will be one step forward towards fulfilling the Doha promise. And the Doha promise for Africa was that first, development is going to be the heart of the multilateral trading system.
They want rich nations to cut subsidies on agriculture. Payments to farmers in rich countries currently stand at $1 billion a day.
Millions of African cotton farmers are victims of high subsidies by developed countries, and that undermines our ability as African cotton producers to be able to compete fairly in the market. We're also looking at a reform of some of the WTO laws and provisions that we believe are biased against African countries or developing countries and limit their ability to fully take advantage of what opportunities lie within the multilateral trading system. We're also looking for removal of obstacles to full market access.
We support a small package that would prioritize issues of concern to least developed countries, strengthen provisions of special and differential treatment, and achieve an outcome on some important agricultural issues as a stepping stone to further work on the DDA mandate after MC10.
While developed countries want a fresh start to the talks, developing countries remain adamant that the Doha Development Agenda must be concluded. They objected to the introduction of new items on the agenda here in Nairobi. They argue anything short of the Doha Agenda will be protecting interests of the rich nations at the expense of poor ones. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
Now that's your news for now. We'll be taking a break and we'll be back right after that.
I'm Peter Ndoro.
And I'm Rebecca Chetty Miller, SAB Miller, Anheuser-Busch InBev. It's something that I need to learn to say more often.
Will together produce around a third of the world's beer.
It is a mouthful. Have you ever considered skin bleaching?
Nigeria tops the list of African countries with 77% of its women bleaching their skin.
Now I can see that it is not good because it affects my face and some of my body parts.
Thousands of Arab Israelis and Palestinians participated in a big rally. Flight MH17 was shot down by a Russian-made missile.
How those chips may fall is a prediction best left to the currency of time.
That's Primetime News, Africa Journal, and Your World on SABC News.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counselor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mutawuni every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Welcome back. It is a historic day for the country, for us here at the SABC, and a very important day in the Northern Cape, and especially in the field of broadcasting and communication. Why? Because the very first set-top box has been switched on in Camus in the Northern Cape, with the move from analog to digital finally getting underway. Communications Minister Faith Mutambi is rolling out the set-top boxes in Camus, which is among areas in the province that the square kilometre array covers. Mutambi says that the television reception will now improve. A Camus pensioner has become the very first person to migrate from analog to digital. 60-year-old Maria Slinger has received her set-top box from government. Now for the latest, we go live to SABC reporter Ulrich Hendricks, who is now in Kakamas. A very good morning once again, Ulrich, and I believe that you have a number of guests lined up.
Until you are going to the...
Hi, good morning, Elvis, and welcome back to Kakamas. It's extremely hot over here, and we're talking all things DTT. As you know, and the first top set boxes was handed over to beneficiaries this morning by Communications Minister Faith Mutambi. Well, my guest that I have here is from the Department of Communication, Soli Makwetla, from the SABC, Daviso Ratipe, excuse me, Ralitabo, and then from the Post Office, Trevor Ndlanzi. Let's start with the Department of Communications. We are live now. We have migrated.
We have migrated. The minister has kick-started digital migration now. The set-top box are live. Of course, we have always had the signal live, but it could not be received by ordinary people who are indigent. But from today, the first step in a journey of 500 million has been taken.
And how does it affect people's lives? I mean, you've handed over a top set box just now to one of the beneficiaries where we are.
It is going to transform people's lives. One of the beneficiaries that we went to earlier on before we came to this household are in the outskirts of Kimos, where it was assumed that their signal was DTT. And as a result, the signal that however, it was not so, because in fact they are in an area where the DTT signal was very, very weak. Or even the ordinary SABC and Centec signal of terrestrial was very weak. So that family, a very, very indigent family, they actually had to subscribe to a satellite network in order to enjoy television. But of course it was expensive. And after buying the television set and subscribing, after a few months, it shut down. So they have been staying there for several years without television, without enjoying the benefits of television, with the television sitting there and not working, until today when the Minister of Communication, Faith Mutambi, arrived with this free DTH box that connects them to the DTT world. And their world has changed. You could have seen the excitement. In this family where we are here now, in Kakamas, it is the same thing as well. Everybody is excited. A new world of television viewing is beginning today for most of the majority of our people.
But it doesn't only limit itself, DTT, to television. Or to radio for that matter.
Exactly so. That is actually what was exciting for them. Because for the first time, this is the area where they listen to the radio called SKFM of SABC. They speak their language, but they've only been able to listen to this on small radio stations, on a small portable radios. For the first time now, they can be able to listen to XKFM coming from this television that they have in the household. So they are able to receive at least 18 radio stations of the SABC, including the number of television channels that are going to be added by the SABC as well.
When we migrate, when this program of giving to the 5 million top set boxes are completed, how are other South Africans will be able to get? Yes.
Well, we are working from a universe of 13.5 million television households in South Africa. The 1.5 million is already subscribing to subscription networks. So there are 8.5 million South Africans who actually were using the antenna to watch SABC 1, SABC 2, SABC 3, ETV and Mnet, where they could receive those, but largely the 3 televisions of SABC. Today we are starting the journey to distribute the 5 million to the 5 million indigent South Africans. There's 3.5 million South Africans like you and I who can afford, who are earning anything above 3,200 rands, who will have to go to retail. We will be launching the retail box in February, where everyone, every part of South Africa can be able to receive the retail box at 3,000 for the 3,500. I'm sorry, for the 3.5 million South Africans.
Thank you very much. From the SABC side, we have Tediso Ralitabo. He's the head of project management at the SABC. The significance of DTT and this for the SABC.
Oh, well, it's very significant. We have to look back into what it means for the SABC. The SABC has got a mandate to inform, educate and entertain the citizens of this country. And therefore, today marks a massive milestone in the history of broadcasting in this country. It means SABC is going to be able to broadcast 5 channels to the citizens. It also means, as Mr. Mukwetli has said earlier on, we are able to have 19 radio stations accessible by the citizens from any corner of this country. It therefore means that SABC is able to reach more people than it ever reached. It's more able to educate and inform more people than we have been able to do all along. SABC is able to reach in terms of youth being developed and being introduced into the industry. So it's a milestone of its kind that we have reached today.
it also opens up a lot of possibilities for channels, for example, radio and television for the SABC.
Yes, of course. Let's talk about radio, particularly in this province. We were only receiving, or the communities here were only receiving 4 radio stations in this province. But with today's milestone, they are able to receive 19 radio stations as we speak. And what is also important is that people from across the country are able to choose the radio stations of their own preference anywhere where they are, in their own languages, from whatever city or small town that they may find themselves, or even in the villages, for as long as they are having a television set and they are also having a set-top box, as the minister has said earlier on. But what is also important for this milestone is that the 5 channels that we are saying people are going to be receiving, there are 2 channels that SABC have been broadcasting from the multi-choice bouquet, SABC News and SABC Anchor. These 2 channels, the people of this country are now able to access without having to pay 1 cent for it. As long as people are paying their television licenses, as long as people are committed to the new way of viewing television, they are able to access those 5 channels that SABC is providing to the citizens of the country.
Good news. Will there be more?
There will be more and more. In fact, the experience of a news channel to many people is going to be amazing. It means SABC is going to have a lot of content generation. SABC is going to have representatives across the country. SABC is going to enable the citizens of this country to tell their own stories from wherever they are, so that they are able to promote their own cultures and the way they are doing things and how they live. So it's a massive change of viewing. It's a massive change of experiencing how they are going to be viewing their television.
Thank you very much. Tadiso Raleitabo is the head of project management at the SABC. From the post office, that's the organization responsible for managing to getting people to apply and to give out the top set boxes. Trevor, how is that process going?
The process is proceeding very well. We've had 3,000 applications in the KSA area. We're expecting more after today. I'm sure many more people, having seen the set-top boxes being distributed, are now going to want them. More people understand that, in fact, this is really free and it's really available to the indigent who actually would like to watch TV of a high quality.
And this is available at all your post offices across the country, even in the most rural areas?
So the program is being rolled out in phases. We're starting here in the KSA area, and it'll be phased. It'll be going into the different provinces. There will be a whole lot of advertisements and media announcements that announce which specific province is next in line in terms of the set-top boxes being rolled out. But in the KSA area, yes, absolutely, people living here can go to their local post offices to apply, and then after a month or so, will then be receiving an SMS that says your set-top box is ready for collection. The installer will then be notified to go to your house and install the set-top box once you have received it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to my guest. We live from Kakamas, but for the next couple of hours, we'll be moving over to Kamos, where the program will unfold. The national event will continue, where the minister, as stakeholders from the SABC, from the South African Post Office, will be going through the event and then enlightening the rest of South Africa. That will also be carried live on Channel 4 for SABC News. But for now, it's back to the studio.
Ulrich Hendricks, our report on the ground there. It's a breakthrough for South Africa, for the SABC, for the country as a whole. Digital migration is finally here. Feel it It is here, but we'll take a break and we'll be right back after that with your sports news.
Controlesa is actually stirring the pot here.
I'm sure they've been consulted as Controlesa. They did not see a snake. Now that in certain areas there are certain benefits that might possibly be accruing, there is a snake, now we need to reverse the process.
I agree, but it is not above the sovereignty of the people. The very same court you're talking about.
The sovereignty of the people, probably you should explain that to me. But
the sovereignty of the people is above everything.
It is not proper the way facts are presented to the public. Are you in contact with Kgosigolo Motshodi?
He was kicked out by the court because he wanted to be amicus curiae.
For your weekly dose of all things legal, join Dumile Mateza every Sunday at 2 p.m. only on SABC News Channel. Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom. Time for us now to take a look at the top sports stories this morning. Of course, it's football. Mamelodi Sundowns. They thrashed Kaizer Chiefs 3-1 to lift the Telkom Knockout Trophy for a third time in the club's history. Goalkeeper Dennis Onyango was the hero of the day at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. 4 down, saving 2 penalties in the second half to pave the way to victory. Coach Pitso Mosimane, well, he's now won every domestic top-flight piece of silverware in his career as a manager. It was a match full of highlights. Here are some of the best ones.
Pass the ball when you have to, shoot when you have to, so don't do anything extraordinary.
I think what Steve Komphela wants is a side that moves forward a little more than they did in the MTN 8 final. Ball in here, wonderful from Sundowns, early chance and it's in. It stayed onside, Castro scores 4 minutes in. The Colombian that Pitso Mosimane has kept faith in for the large part of the past few months. This one against Onyango. Chabalala denied! This is certainly not Chiefs night. Dennis Onyango, outstanding. He's been fouled in the area as well.
Whoa! This is Dennis Onyango's show!
Can play as a striker. Kompagagana threatened to shoot but didn't. Takes a shot, snapshot, third goal, game, set and match.
Played well. I was disappointed with the goal at the end that we conceded. I think we lack concentration and we were excited a little bit and we didn't do our defensive duties. I mean, we played well, Pena, and we have to give respect to Kaizer Chiefs. We have to give respect to Steve Komphela. He's my brother. I want him to win the first cup, but I can't because I've got people from Pretoria here. Chiefs is a very good team. They came up with combination plays, and they gave us problems with combination play. And we have to sit a little bit and organize. But we know we have the speed, and we have the speed, and we harm them with the speed. But I said it earlier, we had the goals. We don't struggle to score the goals. We had the goals.
You don't know what would it take to get the ball inside the net. The number of chances we had, missing 2 penalties as well. And I think the difference between the two teams was being clinical whenever a chance prevailed. The first goal was a diagonal ball, failed to control the switch and a touch. The second one, a set piece, and the third one, the lack of marking in front of the box. But I strongly believe the match could have ended 5-3 in our favor, or 4-3. Missing 2 penalties and the chances that we miss. I don't even know how Hamaldin scored the last one there. You know, there's a stage where You keep on hitting and hitting and hitting, you're missing, and you're saying it will not go inside. It was one of those days, it's painful, yes, but you gotta stand up, dust yourself and move on.
Now, a FIFA court will start hearing the cases of suspended World Football President Sepp Blatter and UEFA Chief Michel Platini on corruption charges in Zurich, Switzerland later today. Blatter is being investigated in connection with a 30 million rand payment that FIFA made to Platini 4 years ago. Both have denied any wrongdoing. Meanwhile, large-scale investigations into corruption in football and athletics continue.
Marine is one of several high-ranking FIFA officials who are apparently set to receive more than R1 billion in bribes in exchange for the media and commercial rights for regional tournaments. The 83-year-old headed Brazil's preparations to host last year's FIFA World Cup, but he's currently under house arrest after being granted bail of around 225 million rand. Last month, he pleaded not guilty to the charges. Joining Marine in court was the only American involved in the FIFA probe, marketing executive Aaron Davidson. Davidson is now also under house arrest after being granted bail of 60 million rand. Marine's predecessor, Marco Polo Del Nero, also maintains his innocence after being accused of participating in schemes which involved millions of dollars in bribes and kickbacks. Del Nero told the local congressional probe into the matter that it is all a misunderstanding and added that he was collecting evidence to defend himself in court. Outside the building, protesters called for his resignation. Meanwhile, U.S. authorities have announced that El Salvador's former Soccer Federation president, Reinaldo Vazquez, has been detained. Vazquez's extradition was approved earlier this month. He's wanted in connection with 5 cases of alleged bribery linked to commercial deals for the broadcasting of qualifiers for the 2014 and 2018 World Cups. And an IAAF Ethics Commission hearing into the conduct of 4 senior athletics officials continues in London today. Papa Masate Diak, the son of former IAAF President Lamine Diak, is charged with various breaches of the body's ethics code. The other accused include the IAAF's former head of anti-doping Gabriel Doll and the former Russian Athletic Federation President Valentin Balaknichev, though not attending the hearing. The 4 are accused of covering up widespread doping in Russian athletics. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
Shark attack survivor Mick Fanning, who's currently leading the World Surfing Championship standings, has once again shown his mental resilience. After learning about the death of his brother, he managed to advance through 2 heats and into the quarterfinals at the last stop on the World Championship Tour, the Billabong Pipe Masters. Now, only 3 surfers remain in contention for the world title: Fanning of Australia, Brazil's Adriano de Souza, and his fellow countryman Gabriel Medina, who saw past South Africa's Geordie Smith in the 3rd round. Fanning maintained his challenge on a 4th world crown when he went up against John Florence and Kelly Slater in the 4th round. He scored an impressive 9.3 with that ride to go through with a heat total of 17.3. This despite a strong finish from legendary Kelly Slater.
When you're paddling out against John and Kelly, 2 of the greatest tube riders, I just tried to, I was just like, well, if the waves come, they come, and, you know, just do my best, and I guess I got it. Yeah, been a huge day. Just got some personal stuff going on at home, and it's sort of heavy to talk about right now, but yeah, I don't know, I'm just sort of just cruising and just trying to live.
Well, that wraps our sportscast here this morning. Time for us to take a look at your continental weather. Such a another warm day as we're going to the weekend on the African continent now. Before we close, American technology giant Google is investing in rolling out high internet speeds in Uganda. It comes as plans are announced to increase internet access in Ghana and Uganda, where the multinational has already launched fiber connections and Wi-Fi hotspots.
Uganda's capital, Kampala, a bustling East African city. Smartphones are common here. Just one of the signs, internet access is in demand. But how reliable and affordable is the connection?
If you're in my line of work and it's deadline driven, you say want to upload a video that you want people to see almost immediately, you may have to leave it at times uploading overnight. But that also depends on what your budget is.
Google is now looking to improve speeds. Through its investment named Project Link, the American technology company has built about 700 kilometers of metro fiber connection in Uganda.
Our objective is really to support and enable mobile operators and ISPs grow and be able to concentrate on what they do best by providing quality services to their end users and also bring down the costs of internet, thus help grow internet penetration in Uganda.
Because of limited infrastructure in sub-Saharan Africa, distributing internet services is costly for providers. The cost is being transferred to customers, which partly explains why internet in a country like Uganda remains unaffordable for many.
Google says it is helping shift the burden of building infrastructure from operators. Telecoms and data providers can now tap on the existing Google platform. Already in Kampala, hotspots have been distributed around the city at a reduced cost.
These locations we picked very carefully in busy areas, in malls, restaurants, high busy streets, downtown, to make sure that we have a wide coverage as far as the Wi-Fi is concerned, meaning we're now giving more access and internet to now the end users, but again through our mobile operators and ISPs.
And for Google's partner suppliers, this means more customers.
In terms of our network reach, suddenly we have multiplied, and we expect to see more connectivity coming into our network. Obviously, these are very early days. We're just observing, but we anticipate to grow our customer base.
Ugandan officials say about 23% of Uganda's 35 million population have access to the internet. Google's Project Link, which also benefits West African nation Ghana, hopes to see more Africans use the internet. But in a continent where a large population still live below the poverty line, internet access remains largely seen as a non-basic need. Julius Mugambwa, SABC News, Kampala.
Now back here in South Africa, Communications Minister Faith Mutambi has handed over the first batch of set-top boxes to beneficiaries at Kemus and Kakamas in the Northern Cape earlier today. This as the country moves from analog to digital. Set-top boxes will decode digital signals for analog television sets, a process that will open up broadcast frequencies for faster mobile broadband services. Switch on is expected on the 1st of January next year. There's great excitement among the people in Kemus, as our journalist Ulrich Hendricks and his cameraman Tumelo Setlabetsi found out.
Kemus, a picturesque town in the Green Kalahari. Agriculture is the main driving force in this small town. In this area where table grapes and raisins dominate. It's here where Communications Minister Faith Mutambi launched the TV household registration process for set-top boxes in October, and where the first batch of set-top boxes will be handed over to beneficiaries. DTT will mean crisper pictures, and more channels will be available. Government will subsidize 5 million set-top boxes. It has created excitement in this normally quiet town.
DTT would improve the life of us because we are a settlement that is very rural settlement, and it will change the life of especially the life of the elders, and the improve the development of technology itself in South Africa as a whole.
The people they need the channels, man, because it's very it's very hard here, this place. We need a lot of channels now, because the people don't like this when the channels just go out every time. You must go look by other people's TV, and so it's not nice.
It's something that the people need here, you see, especially in a small place, Kemus.
Mara van Niel was a young girl when television was introduced to South Africa.
Hy was 'n opwindende gevoel geweest.
It was a very exciting time. We couldn't wait to get in front of the TV. We were watching programs like Ognis Nokni and Brakenjan. We were still very young.
Maar hulle het ons gekyk, want dit was nog jong meisies geweest.
As technology changed, so as TV. She's looking forward to the next step.
En die nuus is maar so die belangrikste.
I'm looking forward to watching the news. That's important. And the kiddies programs too, because we have 2 small kids.
Van Niel has applied for a subsidized set-top box and is eagerly awaiting her turn. Now, one of the reasons for the DTT launch here at Kemus is because of its proximity to Carnarvon. Carnarvon, of course, playing host to science's biggest showpiece, the Square Kilometre Array. Now, analog television signals interfere with the SKA signals, something digital broadcasting won't. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Kemus, Northern Cape.
Yeah, the digital migration process has kicked off today. We're going live on the 1st of January. Things will never be the same again, Elvis.
It's here, Eben. And I mean, we've been waiting for this for such a long time. People say it's never going to happen. It's finally here. For you, the viewer at home, the listener on radio, it's going to make a huge difference in terms of programs and formatting and how people receive programs in their own language.
Yeah, we ask you a question today. Of course, our topic earlier was, we had an interview that dealt with skin bleaching. 1 in 3 South African women bleaching their skin. 3 in 4 Nigerian women are bleaching their skin. It is very, very dangerous from what we found out earlier. Organ failure is what you have in your future if you continue with untested skin bleaching products that you can buy pretty much everywhere. Our tweet of the day with regards to this, I got a little bit of humor around it, Elvis.
Keith, the Hoodoo at Hoodoo Priest says the dangers of skin bleaching is that you end up dating your ex twice without notice.
A little bit of humor around the issue of skin bleaching, but it is problematic. Don't go to taxi ranks and buy skin bleaching products or creams and that sort of thing. Most of it's illegal, and most of it has got hydroquinone in it, which is a very dangerous chemical for human consumption. Actually, it's not. It shouldn't be used at all.
Can make you ill. If you go back to the 80s, you find that people are skin bleaching since that period. But right now, I mean, you should be educated about this. Do not do it. Simple.
Yep. That's where we leave it. It's December 17. It's a week to Christmas, 2 weeks to New Year. K December, boss.
There you go, Eben. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Newsroom. We hope that you have yourself a fantastic day ahead. Ciao for now.
See you then. Bye.
Cheerio.